He hasn't spoken a word.
Hello, creeps. It's your old pal, the Crypt Keeper. And you are now tuned in to my good fiends at Talks from the Crypt, the most gruesome podcast in the world.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's a proficient slap.
That was a good slap.
Solid.
Quality clap.
Fuck yeah.
That's what I have. A quality clap.
The quality clap.
Yeah.
I have the quality clap. Yeah.
I've gotten it 3 times.
Really?
No.
Okay.
I've never
Yeah.
gotten it once. Well, cheers, everybody.
Yeah.
Cheers. Are we
Wait.
rolling?
Yes, we are now officially rolling. Cheers. Cheers.
I'm got my coffee cup still. Is this like bad luck?
No, you can say there's bourbon in it.
Wait,
Yeah.
that's too far.
That's
We're drinking
You're
a
working on
couple of old fashions.
Yes.
kind of appropriate.
See, this is why I'm still on coffee, because otherwise it would be through the crowd old fashions, and that
Yeah.
would be like completely off
That's
brand.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, also I'm
No,
still
or could it be a thruple of old fashions?
Thruple. I like
Thruple.
that.
Oh my gosh, yeah, like
That's
the
our special.
Tintorera
Yes.
of old fashions.
Have you ever seen Tintorera?
No, see, and that's what I was going to say before I even started. I probably haven't seen 98% of the movies you guys have.
Hey,
There
we-
is multiple stacks that beg to differ over
Brandon
there.
has a physical media collection over there that is, I mean, substantial. There's like Santa Sangre,
I'm
but then
having
also
physical media
popcorn.
envy right now. Like
Really? I thought you guys
sta-
had a nice
your stack
collection.
is larger than mine.
Yeah, you're stacking
Sucks.
well. But Tintorera is amazing. It's Susan George and 2 guys
all it
battling a tiger shark.
Mhm.
And you come for the Jaws exploitation of it all, but you stay for the unexpected thruple love that sprouts amongst the 3 leads. And it's so, it makes me,
Like-
also Susan George is in a bikini the whole time. And it's just a good way to spend 90 minutes of your life. I
Have you ever
recommend.
seen Straw Dogs?
Yes.
So that's Susan George.
I'm so glad that I've actually seen a movie you guys named.
See, you,
like,
you-
yes.
like you keep saying that, and it's like the breadth of your knowledge and your acumen has far surpassed, I guess, many other people. Like,
Yeah.
so give yourself a little
Your
credit.
whole life is me. I mean, I also love introducing a new movie to someone who has watched entirely different set of movies than I have, because they are going to be bringing a whole different perspective to the experience. Like my sister has only recently got into some of the weird like stuff that Joe and I love. Also, can we swear on
Of
this?
course.
Okay, some of the weird crap that Joe and I
That's
enjoy.
the word.
Very-
Yeah.
Beep that.
Yeah, please beat that.
The-
Some of the weird schmutz.
The weird crud that Joe and I enjoy.
Yeah.
And like showing her Beyond the Valley of the Dolls and like introducing her to Russ Myers. She's
Or-
now like a huge Russ Myers fan, which makes me so proud and
Return
happy.
of the Living Dead.
Yeah, and she was like picking up on things
Yeah.
that Joe and I have never picked up on before. And
Yeah,
it's so
right.
exciting, like getting to introduce a movie to someone, but they're also reintroducing it to you in a way.
Yeah, because you're seeing it through their eyes.
Yeah, that's part of the whole basis of the podcast that Joe and I do, is that like on one of our first dates, we each brought a Blu-ray that we knew the other person hadn't seen before, which created one of the craziest double features.
One of the wildest double features of
Only
all time.
repeated once in a very bizarre setting at a film festival by us. But I brought a proto kind of screwball comedy from 1936 directed by Gregory LaCava with William Powell and Carol Lombard called My Man Godfrey.
Okay.
And Joe,
Brought the Lucio Fulci banger,
say that again.
the New York Ripper. Have you ever seen New York Ripper?
Yes, with
Okay.
the quacking killer.
I mean,
Indeed.
But what was great was we had already vetted each other enough to know that, like, okay, I know that she likes Italian horror films, and she was like, he's probably into screwball comedies.
No, for me, it was more of a litmus situation.
Well, no, it
like
was,
I
but
had
it
to know
wasn't
that you
these
could fuck with
particular
it.
types of movies.
Yeah.
It was like that we were accepting of, because there's some people who are like, I don't like horror movies at all, and that would be a bit of a deal breaker.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it was also just not whether or not you liked it, but whether or
Mm-hmm.
not a little bit whether or not you liked it, but mainly it was whether or not you would actually give it the credence and not just walk. The worst thing someone can do when you show them something that you really like is just to walk away in the middle of the movie, or just kind of go on their phone.
Yeah.
Or just not
Or
pay
just
attention.
go like,
It's really,
it's all right.
it's heartbreaking when someone, like, even if they don't like it, if they engage with it at least, then you can have a conversation about
Right.
it and like enjoy that part of like appreciating it together. But if they just lose interest,
Yeah.
and it's a movie that you love and you're bringing to the table, and it's, you know, it's a little piece of you that you're giving to somebody. So
Right.
it's really brutal, for me anyway. So that was more my litmus
I would say
situation
the same
with Joe.
thing.
Is that like I
Because you talked a good game when you were talking about how you liked Italian horror films. And I'm like, well, there's no harder game than the New York Ripper.
Yeah.
You know, you got nipple slicing. There's like weird
Eyeball slicing.
It's like the weird sex stuff too. Like
Well,
that
it's
whole
very rapey,
footy thing. It's very
yeah.
rapey. But it's also, we love like New York sleazecore.
Right.
And that movie is like as sleazy as it gets.
Well,
Or
that's
a
why
movie-
I love Fulci, though. It's like he goes there.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people promise it in the trailers, and then you go watch it, and it's all this implication bullshit. Fulci shows it to you,
Yeah.
and he holds on it the
Yeah.
entire time.
In loving close up.
Right.
You want a zombie versus a shark underwater? He delivers. It's not just in the trailer.
Yeah.
It's so good.
So that pairing really solidified us as a couple, at least at the start. Then all the wonderful years together that we've had have only, emboldened that. But the, knowing that we could discover new things with each other, or also just, relive some of the great like movies that we've loved before, like, solo, but then when you watch it with someone else that also appreciates it, but shows it to you in a different light.
Yeah, that's
Right.
what I was
That's what's
saying.
great.
That's so much fun. And so when we do a couple of old fashions, which is our show, it's always great when we find out. It's always a surprise, but when we find out that the other person hasn't seen it before,
Yeah.
it's such a fun experience.
So what was the genesis of the show? Like, when was the decision to say, hey, let's record the conversations you guys are probably just having on your couch at 2 a.m?
Or 4 a.m.
well,
11 a.m. actually.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, so 11 p.m., 2 a.m.
Yeah.
It just goes on and on. Adam, who runs a podcast with Joe called The Movie Crypt.
Former guest.
Was
Adam Green, shout out Adam.
Yes, wonderful director of his own right. And he was leaving to Italy.
Yeah, no, it was for his shoot.
Yeah, Malta,
Yeah.
right? Yes. He was leaving to Malta for a shoot. So Joe needed a co-host to do a bunch of the live shows they do together. So I was available, easy to procure,
Yeah.
could be paid in burritos. So
That's exactly what it was. It was like, can you come over and be on the show? Are there burritos involved?
And
And
Yes, there
ambrosia salad.
Sold.
we're not doing the ambrosia salad story. If you want to hear about the ambrosia salad story, hit me up on Cameo. I don't even have a Cameo, but Joe and I started co-hosting those live shows, and
Oh, it was so much fun.
it was just fun, and we had chemistry like that sort of,
I
sometimes
would hope so.
But sometimes, like, live chemistry doesn't
Yeah,
translate
there's
to
a
screen
difference.
chemistry, and it did translate, and people were just like into us talking. So
It was also nice having it be like the live shows, like we, because Movie Crypt does Movie Crypt live, but also we like the one that kind of closest emulates our show is Slumber Party Massacre, which is at the end of every month we'll either pick or we'll let the fans pick a movie, and then we'll probably usually lately we've been picking movies that we can kind of do Joe Bob style, where we can show it on the live stream and then kind of cut in and talk about it and then go back. Usually it's like, well, where everyone goes 3, 2, 1, play, and then
Yeah.
everyone's pushing play at the same time, and everyone's a little bit off, and there's one douchebag who's like, I have commercials, and then you're screwed. But that was kind of the closest thing, and to even just like when we're sitting on the couch with a drink or two and we're watching a movie that we love. We never pick movies that we've never seen before. It's usually ones that, we can talk for hours about. Halloween 4 and just sit there and just ramble on and go off on tangents. That's what it's like when we're sitting there watching movies.
Yeah.
So when Becca came in, do you remember the movies that we watched?
no.
Yeah. If it was so long ago, yet it was only like earlier than last year.
But then Patreon came out with their pay-per-view kind of feature. So off of the movie Crypt, we did like a pay-per-view thing that was very confusing for everyone. No one understood the functionality of that
It
mechanism.
was nice to have that trial run on Movie Crypt's Patreon, and honestly, the audience who knew about Becca a little bit, knew like that our dynamic, but. I think you came on once or twice, like during the live shows, like in the background, and people were like, "Who's that?" But once we actually got to kind of really chop it up,
and it was really
you could
nice.
just tell from the fans that or just like the people that were coming online, that everybody really just enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah.
And that meant a lot.
Well, I
And
love that you guys moved it over to YouTube. You know,
Yeah,
'cause
we started
Patreon-
our own show basically. Yeah, because it was just.
You're pigeonholing yourself. I feel like, there's not a lot of people like I know Video Archives is on Patreon as well.
Mhm.
I love Tarantino. I love Roger Avery, but I wouldn't pay $5 a
That
month. for it.
Gala. No, I'm kidding. She's a close
I love
friend.
Gala.
We've been on her show as well.
Yeah. Yeah. She's another one of those people that make me feel stupid when I listen to her talk about movies. I'm like, oh, wow.
She's
I've
got
never-
a breadth of movie knowledge that is very impressive.
Do you guys feel that there is a line dividing film bros and film enthusiasts? Like, where is that line drawn?
Maybe like pretension. I don't know. There's a certain like quoting a movie without ever having seen it, I guess, is
Right.
something that I associate with kind of film bros, or being very like, oh man, PDA
Oh, this is-
in a
Are
film
we
bro
getting into
sandwich right now.
Are we getting into a PTA conversation? By the way, as of this recording, PTA's new movie just won the New York Film
Have you
Critics
guys
Awards.
seen One Battle After Another? I don't know. It's just really, it's like, I've never seen PTA like that
That
before.
chase
It's
scene
like-
was unbelievable.
yeah.
Fuck you guys. I love that movie.
The chase scene was great.
I think that there's a
good.
difference between, like in my version of the delineation between film bros and film enthusiasts, is that film bros think that they know so much about movies.
Who's hers? In their shot? Oh shit.
What's in your shot?
We could zoom in on it.
Oh,
And we've got some fucking semen on the table too.
that was me. Sorry.
He had to christen it.
Thank you. I'll scoop
Rusty got too close. But hey, that was
Crossing
very
the streams.
astute.
Thank you.
This is a
Yeah.
crossover episode, so we had to cross the streams.
Look at this.
Does mine need
You are
to be
good.
I appreciate that. Usually I would find out when I'm editing and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
Mm.
Why is that there?
Yeah.
I can start from that Film Bros delineation line.
Yeah.
For a cut point.
Or,
Sweet.
we could just keep this in
Yeah,
too.
whatever.
Yeah.
This is all
Organic,
good.
baby.
Whatever. But I my reflection on it, especially since there's a lot of film bros on social media, but also at a lot of social events that we go to, the difference for me is that film bros seem very close-minded in, if you don't like something that they like, then you're an idiot.
Right.
Whereas film enthusiasts are the type of film lover that and I think that we kind of fall into this bracket where here, I'll use this as an example. Have you seen X movie? And if you say no,
I love X movie.
well, like you go like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
I think a film enthusiast realizes that that you embrace that moment where it's like you get to see the remake of The Blob for the first time. And this has happened many times before. I'm going to drop a name right now. So Kevin Williamson was at a party we were at over the weekend.
That was a heavy
right?
drop,
I
too.
know, so big old fucking drop. And I can't remember who was talking. I think it was Brian Fuller was talking about the Blob remake, and then immediately turned to me because he knew how important the Blob remake is for me. And I said, have you seen the Blob remake? He's like, no. And that's where the line in the sand is drawn, because there's some people it's like, oh man, you're missing out, or it's like,
Right.
what's wrong with you?
we did tell him to watch it.
Absolutely. But our attitude is, you get to see this movie not like, we were a 12-year-old kid, in 1988 watching it just as like a film lover, but here's someone who is a film professional and can appreciate the screenplay, that was written by Frank Darabont, and how it was turning all the screws and doing zigging when people were thinking it was going to zag.
Yeah.
You know, the performances, the craftsmanship. It's like to see it from that purview. I wish I could go back and use one of those like little Men in Black things that erase your memory so that you can rewatch all these amazing movies that now I watch and I just sit there and go, I'm like breaking it down.
But I love
analyzing
rewatching movies.
Oh, I do too.
It's like a whole different, every time you rewatch a movie, I feel like it's a completely, who is it that says that movies don't age, you do? I think Joe Dante.
Yeah, I think it was Joe Dante.
And so every time you watch it, you're remembering the times that your relationship with the movie evolved.
He's got a very Scorsese voice. Do you hear Scorsese when he talks?
Because he talks fast and high.
And he says picture.
Yeah, he does. And he dresses up very nicely for his shoots. You know, I know Raimi does that. I tried doing that for a while and never worked out. I was just like, fuck it, black t-shirt it is. I don't have time for this shit.
When on earth did you ever try to dress nicely?
I saw it
on my first movie.
I saw it. Screen Rant, Suitable Flesh promos.
Oh, yeah, well.
Oh, yeah,
those are
he'll
different,
dress
though.
up for PR.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he'll dress up for Tribeca, but for Becca, he won't do shit.
For Try, I will. For Becca, black t-shirts
But
for you.
there is like the John Landis, Orson Welles model of not watching everything. Like John Landis has said he goes out of his way to make sure he doesn't see everything. And Orson Welles, we all know his
See,
take.
that's weird, though,
He could be
because
too inspired.
anytime that I've talked to John, he like mentioned a movie, he's seen it.
Yeah.
You know, so he watches a lot of stuff.
Right.
I wouldn't, maybe he's maybe a little more selective about it. But then on the flip side, you know, you have Tarantino, you know, who
Who's seen
watches
everything. Yeah.
everything.
But also, like, it's not, I know we call it homework sometimes for fun, but I don't know that, like, whenever, you know, I was chatting to Barbara Crampton at a party the other day too, and she was just, couldn't believe, she was like, you watch like a movie a day? And I was like, well, on average, because some days I'll watch 3 movies and it's just like one of those days where you just keep piling it on. But it's not, like, to me, that's the whole reason I'm here, you know? Like, my whole
I never
life
see it as work.
has been about, like, I love watching movies. I really love it. I love reading about them. I don't understand people who are just like, why? How do you find the time? What do you, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just like,
But I don't think it's for the three of us and for, you know, that guy over there, Rusty. Hi, how's it going?
Hey, Rusty.
He needs his own camera.
Yeah, I know.
The
I know.
Rusty
We were
cam.
thinking about that.
He's got a presence and you just want to be like, but it's got to be a camera that's like high and wide and he's like
that
covered
phase,
up by a
exactly.
bunch of like technical shit, you know, like the Stern Show. I think,
Baba Booey.
oh God, I was obsessed with Stern back in the day. Like
Yeah.
I miss it so much.
I hate when people are like, oh, he's too woke now. It's like, fuck you. Stern's still awesome to
He
me.
was always that way. It's just
Right.
because I think people now see that he is very left leaning. He was always left leaning, but he also liked butt bongo fiestas.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? Anyway, I think that, you know, using the three of us as an example, we love movies so much that, you know, I used to use the excuse of like, oh, it's homework, you know, but it's so much ingrained in our DNA that like it's a joy to escape. It's a joy to watch something and see a different point of view, a different type of story, a different era, a different, like everything's a time capsule. And, you know, I think it just so happens that we as filmmakers, we absorb that stuff. There are people who love movies, but if you ask them what a shot reverse shot is, they'd be like right over their head. You know, they wouldn't know. For us, I think because we appreciate the medium so much as an art form, we can see it on an analytical level.
But
we can see it on a casual level. We can see it on many levels and still
Right.
enjoy it.
I feel like it's also just a compulsion though. Like, I mean, we were talking about, I know you're trying to not date this, but we did have a dinner.
Oh, no, we'll date it.
Okay, yeah, to date this, we had dinner last night, and you were talking about how all the different creative endeavors that you've like sort of been working on throughout your life, and how it's led to Talks from the Crypt. And
I like yours. You said Tales from the Hood once. I'm like, yeah.
Sorry.
Tales from the Hoodie, more like. But,
Talks from the hoodie.
Matching. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's got
you
hoodies
guys.
on today. And
Oh my
he's got the
gosh.
Atkins shirt on today. Wow.
Yep. Although
Necro Atkins.
I wish that I had Becca's
I
necromantic
do have a
too.
good
Wow,
necromantic
it's a very
t-shirt.
nice
Yeah,
shirt.
I'm a big fan of those
Your
movies.
book right.
You're good, right.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the Necromantic movies?
I don't think so, but I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to cut that in.
No.
Absolutely. I've watched it 1,000 times.
He hasn't watched it yet. No,
I've seen it 1 billion times.
But
my favorite.
See, that's the thing. Like, there are some people who would be like, judge you silently because you haven't seen it. It's like,
my comment
yourself
section.
a horror fan? Well,
My comment section.
well, then you know what? Your comment section's filled with a bunch of film bros. Sorry,
Yeah.
But shout out to all those necromantic fans out there.
Yeah,
for
shout out.
both of those guys,
Love those
including my
movies.
mom. But like,
I was just to finish my point
yeah,
was
sorry.
that I feel like we started out just with this really natural interest in stories and storytelling, and it wasn't work. It wasn't something we had to work on. It was just an innate part of how we were as people. I mean, honestly, the film industry is a massive headfuck. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but I mean, I went to film school, and when I got out of film school, I got like a 9-to-5 job at Universal Pictures because I was like, well, it's film adjacent.
Ooh, what'd you do there?
I had that was my first ever. They did like this postgraduate job thing for kids that didn't have any kind of a door. Like I grew up in Brussels, like a million miles away
Was
from
this
any.
in Brussels or were you in LA?
No, in London.
Oh, in London. Okay.
Yeah, their international branch, and it was in like marketing and acquisitions, and it was great. But it's not filmmaking. It's the other side of the table. It's incredibly corporate. No one there likes movies, really. I mean, that's the odd person, but most
But was there
people
anything you
aren't.
learned through that? Like,
Yeah. Oh
the
my
corporate
god,
side?
for sure. Yeah. Well, I went into indie distribution kind of things as well the year after, and I learned a lot there, specifically about how, and I won't name the company, but how
Name them, we'll beep it.
indie. Yeah.
I swear I'll beep it.
So I worked with who have their own acquisitions department, and they tend to work with their new horror indies, and they'll predict in their budget a certain MG and use that as a means by which to justify how lowballing they are with their offer to the filmmaker, and they make that MG back straight away just with like international sales of like TV rights. And it's such a brutal it's so brutal being on that side of the table and just seeing these people that are, their whole lives have been making this indie little horror, and they've managed to make it, and kind of sell them on the idea of like, oh, they'll get their cool little Blu-ray, they'll get their physical media with like that treatment. It's not really the treatment, not in the same way that like a
Now, am I
RoboCop
beeping
would
it
get.
every time we say the company name?
Yeah, shit, yeah.
No, I'll beep it every time.
Yeah, no, I don't want to get into hot water with anyone, because it is a great company still. But it was just interesting learning about how, like everyone's just in this to make a dollar sometimes. And when you're us and you're coming into it just from this like need that isn't fulfilled. I mean, I ultimately struggled with like intensely negative emotions for ages because this wasn't what I wanted to do. I was like living a false life. I wanted to make movies. I wanted to be a creative, and there's only so long that you can go against your own grain.
Is writing the goal, or do you want to direct and move into other things?
Writing is probably the thing that gives me the most joy right now. Like I just love it. I love coming up. I spend like ages coming up with the characters in my mind, doing like, I'm a big researcher. Yeah. So right now I'm doing like a biopic, sort of based in real true crime kind of area. And I spent like a whole month, just like, well, even longer than that, but a whole month of like really delving deep into research and writing loads of like notes about it.
My joy is coming home and hearing like, did you know that she did this? And it's some dark, nasty, nefarious shit.
But getting so excited because it like will fit into the weird, crazy map that we're composing for the screenplay. And then once you've done all that research and you sit down and these characters just start talking, and it's like magic. It's not work. They just start to tell you what the story is.
I never got that until I started writing too. And we worked on a project together with Neil Marshall years ago. And when Becca came up with these characters and built all this backstory, the closest thing I could think about it, and I'm guessing that's obviously the path you're taking with this one, because I haven't really read anything yet. I'm very excited.
I'm a big blank. How we work together is
She's blank page. I'm more of like the I clean up the vomit.
Yeah.
The rewriter.
Yes.
You're right.
But Tarantino said this years ago on Reservoir Dogs, where he was talking about how the script for Reservoir Dogs wrote itself because he knew all of the characters. And then when he just kind of let it rip, they just started talking about Like a Virgin and tipping and, milk and milkshakes and Lee Marvin and shit.
Yeah.
Like I never understood that until you actually start crafting characters. Like, and that's the problem with, like we were talking before about, horror movies. If you have a good horror movie, sometimes the best horror movies are the ones where if you take out the horror element, you still want to hang out with those people.
Yeah.
They're still compelling characters that have their own lives, that have their own drama, that have their own pathos, that have all the things that like make us all complex human beings.
Well, and some people try and force the genre too much. They know they want to write a horror film, so their scripts.
Well,
just
then
seem
what
narrow.
you do is you start to write archetypes, not characters.
Yeah,
Then
they're
you're
bad
writing.
scripts.
You're writing the types. You're writing like, well, here's the person who's the bimbo, and that person should die in the second
You
act.
might as well be AI at
Yeah.
that point. Like when AI was a massive, a huge part of the strikes and everyone was really nervous about it. My point of view was very much that, if you're an AI written script is basically a bad writer's script.
Yeah.
Like it's someone who's just got a formula and they're plugging like archetypal characters
Yeah.
and not real people into a formula and just generating. And we've read Joe, when he had an agent at CAA.
You don't have
I
to beep that out.
Okay.
That's fine. No, please. CAA. They're great.
Oh my gosh. But he used to send Joe just like the dregs and like, oh my gosh, it was terrible.
embarrassing.
And then when I read my first like AI generated scripts, I was like, I've read these scripts before. Like it's not, I'm not that threatened by AI. I think of it as just a tool. And then like the people that are scared of it taking away their jobs, those are people that can't create their own worlds and their own characters because those have to be built out of flesh and blood and experience. No one can take over. That's someone's entire life that they're pouring out. That's their blood they're pouring onto a page.
Well, that's the interesting thing about writing, though. Sometimes I find myself writing shit that I've never lived or experienced in my life.
But
and you almost get this gratification of like, holy shit, where did this even come from?
You're kind of
but it
living
is
through
coming,
them then.
but it's
Well, you're
coming from
connected to
something.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It is, I think, being grafted from some kind of a kernel of experience that you've had in your life. And like, obviously I've never killed anyone or like been
That
in a
we
car
know of.
crash or, all of the horrible things I make my poor characters go through. I just wrote a crazy script about like a monster in a closet that, I don't know how much to reveal of it, but
don't,
it's
'cause
okay.
that shit's fucking gold right now.
But like all these, that's part of the reason why I love horror is that you start out grounded with that kernel of experience. And I'm sure if you actually analyzed it, you'd realize, oh no, I was actually drafting from my own life and experience and blood, but then creating this scenario that you've never experienced. And it's like you're putting yourself, that's almost like the virtual reality of
Yeah.
it, but the response, the reaction, the dialogue, that's all coming from you.
Right.
It's just all of the crazy kind of context that you put people
Yeah.
in. And that's what makes like genre to me the most exciting. Cause like,
Did you learn by structure, or how did you initially get into screenwriting? Like Blake Snyder or Sid Fields. Like, did you read into anything, or did you just kind of do it by instinct?
well, do you want to respond about
No,
yours?
please. I'm enjoying this.
Oh, I went to film school, so I had all of that. But I'd done a lot of my own work before, just like, I guess, organic, but like kind of just learning that what I love most about writing is dialogue. And I started with fan fiction. Like I would get obsessed with a particular book or a particular movie and be like, well, I want to see these characters do in these whole other situations. So I would take I took like Tarantino characters and had them like in a movie with like Linklater characters just hanging out, and then put horror movies into it.
Yeah.
And like just be like, oh, I would want to know how Mr. Pink and the lead guy from Dazed and Confused, isn't he also called Pink?
Maybe.
The two Pinks.
I was just picturing Mr. Blonde and Ron Weasley banging.
Yeah.
It's like, if that could happen.
but that's honestly, fan fiction is a great way to get started because
Yeah.
you have someone already doing some of the legwork for you, the
Yeah.
research and creating the world and the characters, which is one of the hardest things to learn. And then the rest is just you getting to kind of draft, like create your own like extension of it, and you play around with it. And no one's going to, like, the sky's the limit with that. You're never going to produce this.
Right.
So you get to just have fun and learn as you go. And then I went to film school and I had the Sid Fields and the Julia Camerons, all of that kind of like textbook analysis of how to write a screenplay. And that kind of stymied me for a little bit because that doesn't really work for me. I don't know how to, for me, it's very much a process of like creating characters first and foremost and themes and really working on those for a really long time. And then I'll do a scene breakdown where I'll do like bullet points of what happens in every single scene. And then when I write the script, I put next to them like page counts and stuff like that. So that's like, I guess, where it gets a little bit more granularly broken down, because you do need a map, in my opinion. You need to know where it's all going to go.
But I think rules are made to be broken too. Like,
yes.
The only thing, as a pro tip for all screenwriters out there that are listening to this, is that if you don't have a particular, like the particular standard, like final draft format for your script, 9 times out of 10, it won't make it past an assistant. And that is just a dumb formality. Like, there are so many screenwriters who come at a script, come at an outline. I think in the, almost century that people have been putting scripts into that format to be filmed, there's been umpteenth ways of getting to the end in a successful way that gets it to, the production stage. It's just that, like, there's just that one little formatting thing. And that's how I've seen like scripts come my way, or, screenwriters send stuff to a production company, and it's this mess. It looks like, someone just kind of like unformatted it, and that is deemed unprofessional, and it gets thrown out. And it's crazy because there's probably some amazing writers who just don't want to adhere to that format that they might have learned in school or based on other scripts, or maybe it just doesn't fit with their flow, their creative flow. But no matter what, writing is, everyone comes at it differently, and that's one of the things that, like, for the longest time, like Becca mentioned before, it was like, outlining for me is essential. I need to know point A to point B to point C, so then I can then fuck with it when I get, like, when I take the journey on with dialogue and, and action and everything. But I do like to know where I'm ending up, or I will end up with a 300-page script, which has happened many times. Yeah. And that sucks because, and then you become precious about, like, oh, but I can't lose this scene, and that's gold right there. And then your 300-page script turns into a 280-page script. So, like, and I never thought I was ever really going to be able to find like a writing partner till this wonderful person came along, and
you guys work beautifully together, because Suitable Flesh. And it's funny because every time I've talked about Suitable Flesh with Joe, he's go, oh, that's all Becca. That's all Becca.
It's
so
true.
What you added to the movie. I mean, honestly, I think the first half of the movie is like foreplay for what you get in the last half of the movie.
I love that.
It's unbelievable. I mean, literally, I sent Joe a video the other day when I was showing Alex for the first time.
Which video? The dick pic one, or the
was
one with
after the dick pic?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, got it.
But I literally just put mastery. It was unbelievable.
And that's when I sent a dick pic on the reaction for that. Like,
yes,
that's all it takes, man. It's like someone said mastery, done.
You think he's joking, but he's a director. So that's
I will say this, and I'm going to just preface this now, in that neither of us would have had that opportunity if it wasn't for Dennis Paoli's original script that Stuart Gordon was going to write, that Barbara Crampton really shepherded when Stuart was, kind of on his deathbed, because that was going to be his last movie. That was the let's get the band back together situation. And when it unfortunately didn't happen, which was heartbreaking for many of us who were fans of Reanimator and From Beyond and Dagon and all the Lovecraft stuff and just Stuart Gordon movies in general, we lost someone very significant in the genre. And when Barbara came to me and sent that script, this was weeks after the pandemic, right? So everyone was really
lockdown.
like, what the fuck is going on? Becca was back with her parents in
Yeah,
in
that was a
Europe.
mistake.
And-
I like went back. Do you know that scene in Independence Day where they're like flying Air Force One at the flames
and there's
are on the tail of the plane?
the fireball right behind it. That was Becca.
that was
She took the last flight out of LAX.
well, yeah, one of the last ones.
It was the last one, believe me. I
Because I'd
saw.
only just gotten to LA and my parents live all the way in France. And it was one of those things where we thought, you know, we didn't know what to think. It was one of the, I think at the time we thought it was going to just be extremely hairy for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to go be with my family right now and like see, I'll
Just
come
let it all
back in
blow
6
over.
weeks.
Yeah.
And then it was just like, was unending. So we had several months of just kind of long distancing relationship, and work was one of the ways that we kept re-engaging with one another. That's when we really started to, we'd done some script work together before, like in Creepshow and stuff, but the Suitable Flesh was the first time because Joe sent me the original script, which was all the genders were reversed from the film as is right
Because
now.
that was where it was based on the H.P. Lovecraft story.
Yeah, the thing on the doorstep.
It was, male protagonists, and Asa Waite was Asia Waite, which was a woman. And,
Elizabeth with Edward.
Yep. And so Barbara sent me the script, and we were 9 hours, she was 9 hours ahead. So I read the script and then sent her the script to take a look at it. And correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm getting this wrong, but I didn't say the gender swap.
No, I just read the script as it was, and
Yeah.
I loved a lot of it. I loved all the body swaps and all the thematic kind of body. I love body horror. I just wasn't that interested in the story because it was about this, 50-something guy who had reached a peak in certain elements of his life. He was at the top of his career.
Michael Douglas in the 90s.
Yeah,
basically.
very and then suddenly was having his sexuality, deconstructed and challenged in a way that was new and different. And, in 1990 might have been when the script was originally written, very interesting. But by 2020, we'd seen that a lot of times before. There's a lot of ways we can still challenge the difficulties that men experience every day.
Yeah.
Especially right now with how men are currently portrayed in media, like hyper masculinity and the insecurities that generate within men in their own bodies. I do think that's still a very valid and interesting topic. But when Joe resent the script to me and said, read it again, but this time think of it with the genders reversed, for me, that made everything suddenly blow wide open in terms of the possibility of themes and just having a woman of a certain age, as being 50 especially, means that they're part of the post-baby boomer generation of women who came of age at a time like the working girl generation, who were told that, the glass ceiling had been broken and the world was their oyster. And then they were getting to these top peaks and echelons in their career and feeling somehow guilty or unworthy or not able to handle that success and self-sabotaging in a really interesting way, or not feeling comfortable in their body and not feeling like they were able to have it all as they'd constantly been told that they ought to aspire to, because, the women before them broke that ceiling down and it's a very complicated and interesting topic that's actually been told really well in a lot of other movies lately. I think Baby Girl talked about that kind of, mentality really interestingly with Nicole Kidman's character, and they're all women of that generation. And then after The Hunt, Luca Guadagnino's latest
I'm
film.
the worst with names. I can't believe I said that.
Yes,
Right? That was fuck yeah,
good
dude.
job, baby.
Thank you.
Julia Roberts is struggling, and it's all very different types of films.
Yeah.
Like one is erotica, one is dramatic, ours body horror.
Would that be Dramatica?
Dramatica, body horrica, it's all the crazy things. And I find it so thrilling that we're talking about that and talking about women above the age of 50 in terms of being sexual and horny and
Because
wanting.
like just the fact that I just said Michael Douglas, everyone who just heard that name went, they could pick out 5 movies in the 90s where he was in his 50s and he was sowing his royal oats and he was
Yeah.
figuring out his sexuality again. If a woman was in that role, they would be that would be verboten.
Yeah.
And look, women can be sexual in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, their 50s.
I think especially postmenopausal women have such, I know so many women right now of that age that are at their peak horniest that they've ever been in their lives. Now that they
Yeah.
finally don't have to worry about like all these crazy hormones like blocking up their. Anyway, it's a very
there was something about, because I remember thinking about that idea, and Stuart Gordon was such a representative of provocative cinema, dangerous choices in his movies. And when I read the script, and again, no disrespect, but it didn't feel like a Stuart Gordon movie. It felt like there was something missing. There was a component that was missing.
So it was a great idea.
Yeah.
And then I sent the script. You were morning your time.
Yeah.
And I was nighttime.
Mhm.
And you went off and like had a day,
Yep.
did work or whatever. And then I spent the whole night writing this like dissertation
Nine-
on why
nine-page
it was
thesis.
a good idea to swap the genders. Because I hate, the idea of just swapping he for she.
Yeah.
Obviously.
We make that joke all the time. It's like it became a trend where it's
Yeah.
like, fellas, Lethal Weapon with chicks. And someone would go for like a moment, they'd be like, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I do think it's a good like lesson to sometimes look at your script and be like, wait, why is it a guy and not a girl? Just to challenge yourself and be
Yeah.
like, oh, it could, I guess, be a woman. But at the same time, a man walks into a woman walks into a room. It's a different energy. It's a different context of like what happens. We know the stereotype of double standards a million times. When a woman says something in a commanding way, she's a bitch, and a guy says it in a commanding way and he's daddy. Like that's just a classic double standard. And when I wanted that idea to be successful when we pitched it so badly. So I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just this kind of throwaway, gimmicky thing.
there
that
wasn't
it was
surface level.
There was
Right.
a real, genuine, like purpose.
There was a reason for it.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that
And
it was
thankfully-
going to be a better film. And to answer, to speak to what you were saying,
Yeah.
it was going to have that danger,
Mhm.
that provocation that Gordon was so famous for again by like having that gender swap. And I mean,
it also helped that Barbara Crampton is around that age, or maybe a little bit older, but around that age enough where she could go, yes, that's the kind of thing that we should be doing with this. That feel, and she's known Stuart for decades. So like,
So
when
was
I-
everybody on board when you guys switched genders?
immediately.
Wow.
when we sent we sent it with the
when I
dissertation.
sent Becca's thesis, I don't think the name was on there, but I was like, hey, you should read this, because they didn't know that we were together or that we were working together or anything.
They have since found out.
Oh yeah,
I'm
but
very-
it was very immediate. And then Dennis did a pass, and then like from there he was kind of like go with God. And at the same time, one of the things that I think is so important in one form or another when you're making a movie is that there has to always be, whether it's the director or if the writer isn't in fact directly involved, there's always going to be an evolution of the script because of location, casting, certain circumstances, budget. There's 50 million things that are going to come your way that are going to ultimately change the optics of the script or change little things, big things, everything. So you have to have someone on hand. Directors usually have what's called a director's pass. It's sometimes official, sometimes not. A lot of times producers see it as free work. That they get a whole nother pass out of it from the director. Sometimes the director gives the notes to the writer or whatever. And then, so when we finally got the thing greenlit and when we started actually formulating the cast between Heather and Jonathan and Judah and, Barbara came in last minute because she just wanted to produce. And then at the last minute, she's like, maybe I should play that character. And we're like,
I'm glad
yes,
she
you
was.
should.
It was a nice tipping of the hat.
Well, I think she wanted to make out with Heather.
Yeah.
To be fair, let's just be fair. Who
didn't want
Who didn't
that?
want to make out with Heather? Come on.
Right.
or who didn't want Barbara and Heather to make out.
The studio definitely did. They were just like, oh, here's the money.
Lather it up.
So when we finally got to Mississippi and even before that, Dennis was kind of done but they still needed pages changed. I needed changes made still. And Becca swooped in and kind of became our on-set writer. We were kind of going back and forth.
Well, we were also editing the film together, which for me is very much a similar discipline.
Yeah.
Very different tools, but you're basically doing you're working towards the same goal. You're crafting character, pacing, narrative.
Choosing which gasp to keep
Exactly.
in.
Yeah. No, honestly.
I love that.
No, that's really, that's the kind of granular stuff that you end up fixating on while you're writing a script and while you're editing.
Yeah.
And I also hate people So for me, being part of like the writing and the editing process of like creating a film is the best because you're just in like a bunker in your own like sweatpants and but in your mind, you're experiencing everything, the whole world. And I think they're the two most, obviously film making is a very collaborative
Being on set
process.
is tough too.
Would you not say though that like the writing and the editing are like basically the two most, because they're some of
absolutely.
the
No,
least
At
sexy
the end of
parts
the day,
of the.
when you think about like what a showrunner does, right, for TV,
Mhm.
a showrunner is commanding the overall vision. They're the ones who are coming up with the pilot. They're the ones who are commanding the writer's room. And then in the edit, they're the ones who ultimately get final cut. The directors, in most cases, in that kind of workflow, are workflow managers. They're the ones who are making the day, but ultimately they are just serving the script and the edit. So I don't disagree at all. I'm just like, I love being on set. I love the camaraderie. I love the, like, I hate to say the tension, but like sometimes I live off of that.
I
you know?
hate that.
I know you do.
And it's always so cold on a set.
Well, there was
That's
a lot of tension on this one, right?
Sexual.
Well, yeah,
sexual tension. Sexual tension, yes. No, like from a certain standpoint, maybe mostly the actors, it was a wonderful experience with them. The crew,
Yeah.
not so much.
Mm.
And then I think that purely comes down to,
Now, you didn't get to pick the crew?
nope.
No, it's a producing.
We
job.
tried, in certain cases we tried, like the costume
Sure.
designer and the production designer,
The DP.
Lily Balls, who did the production. No, the DP,
We
had
interviewed a lot of DPs.
4 DPs because once we got the kind of green light, and this was something that I was very strict about because we were ultimately making a female gaze horror movie. And this was bolstered a lot by Becca's, influence. A lot of it was, I want to surround myself with as many female artists as possible because I'm only going to have a certain perspective, but the movie is told from a woman's POV.
Especially with a DP,
Yes.
because when we're talking about gays, oftentimes that is very like subliminally like I was being somewhat facetious by saying that the writing and the editing, they're
No,
two
but
of the
you're
most
right.
important parts, but crafting the shots and the coverage, I mean, all of that perspective feeds very, very heavily into how an audience identifies with the characters, who is given the power of a frame. All of that is, Scorsese said cinema is a matter of what's in the frame and what's out. And so I thought it was important to both of us that we
From
hire
the jump,
a female
I
DP,
wanted to
but
work with
it
the-
just didn't. We were like cursed.
We tried 4 different female DPs, and either it
And
was,
there's a lot of female DPs
Yeah.
in the industry. I don't want to give the impression, but for some bizarre reason or another,
It
they all
was-
fell through.
It was either not enough money or somebody got to get, like, there was this one great DP that we really went down the road with for a while. And she had to bow out because the producers didn't get her contract done in time, and she got a TV show and out, And then it ultimately, we were on the plane going to Mississippi, and I thought I had this one DP locked down, and she had like a panic attack on, over text she just wasn't ready to make the movie. She just felt like she didn't have the resources and yada, yada, yada. So it ended up the DP that they worked with, because the production company or the producers worked on another movie in Mississippi called Jacob's Wife. That was another Barbara Crampton movie with Larry Fessenden. And the DP there was a local DP named Dave Matthews, who I really liked, and he was part of the production company that ultimately, shot the movie for us. That was like the kind of all-in-one, all-encompassing production company called iVox. And he was their in-house DP. And again, nothing against him, because he was given a shit sandwich
Crazy,
and had to
yeah.
do a lot out of very
He
little.
was camera operating as well,
Yeah.
like the whole time. I could hear him in B-roll. Poor Dave, like between action and cut, I could just hear him be like, "Come on, Dave, you got this." I was like, "You got
like
this,
he
Dave."
would talk to himself, and I would do
Poor
it too.
Dave.
Like
the panic and he wanted so badly not to let you down.
yeah, and the thing is, like, he was put into a precarious situation, and he made the best of it. And thank God, because like there were people, because we were in Mississippi, it's not a hub of production like Atlanta or New Orleans or Albuquerque. So you have to kind of bring those people in. And when
Yeah.
you can't bring those people in, you have to find people that might know how to hold a boom pole.
Or
maybe.
if another production is happening in the same area and they have more money, they're going to get the good people.
Yeah,
and if
right.
there aren't that many good people, and that's what happened to us, you can get again,
There
everyone
were
did
other
their
productions
best.
going on.
There was industrials and commercials that were paying better than what we were, you
Yeah.
know, and truth be told, you know, there are certain things that you have to always remember when you're making a collaborative project like a movie. And one of the biggest ones is feed your crew, right? It's not hard. Feed your fucking crew. And like, you know, we were on this weird bubble of COVID still, like people still had to get tested,
That was
you know, every once in a while.
2022.
Yep. So people still had to get tested. We were doing like not the way that like when I was doing Creepshow, we were getting our brains tickled every day, whereas this was like once a week. But still, the days of like the buffet, the spread that they would have where people would deliberately
Nasty.
take shitty PA jobs because the fucking spread on Rush Hour 2 was fucking amazing, you know, lobster lunches and shit. I don't know why Rush Hour 2 came up.
Is
but
that factual?
No.
Oh, damn, I
you know
was
what?
like,
No, but
they
it was a
got it
Brett
made.
Ratner movie, so probably yes. I'm going to say 9
I
times out
love
of 10
that
yes.
you're crediting Joe so high that you thought he would know Rush Hour 2's production
I
so
wouldn't
well.
doubt it for a
I
moment.
I listened to
that
the
he did.
listen on the Rush Hour 2 commentary. They specifically talked
about
about
the
how
lobster.
great the fucking lobster lunches were. But the point is that like our producers didn't think, unfortunately, and not all of them, but a lot of them didn't have the wherewithal to think of these basic things that keep your crew happy, that keep your crew, just keep your crew, because we had a bunch that were like, hasta lasagna, we're out. There
We're
is
gonna
no
go
lasagna.
get some lasagna.
Yeah. We had days where the dudes were like,
It
we're
was
gonna go to
bad,
McDonald's.
Yeah, the
you
lunches.
know?
They were small, like packed lunches for COVID reasons,
Yeah.
but there was like nothing in them. Our Airbnb, I was editing out of it, but it was for the first week of production, just happened to be down the road from the house that they were
That was so
doing all
awesome.
the locations shooting in that week. And so I was like, oh, well, then I'll take advantage of like Crafty and I'll come and get my lunch box these days. And I would go get it after the first day. I was like, no, I'll just make my own sandwich. That's okay. Like I deliberately went like, that's how bad. And I love,
Right.
you took me out to dinner last night. You know, I love free food. It's the best thing ever. So I can't like, speaks to the depth of depravity that they sunk to is whoever they
all
sourced that.
It's all those
food
things that
from.
you have to think about when you want to craft something successfully.
Right.
And crews have to be on point and they have to be well fed. You know, even if you don't pay them well, a well fed crew will kind of get you over the finish line.
Right.
And unfortunately, and it wasn't just that. It was just like, for example, we had a script supervisor, and I have no problem talking about this at all. I know there was a point where I wasn't allowed, like I was told not to talk about this because, it might like, you know,
Wrinkle. Feather.
start a lawsuit or something. I don't give a fuck.
Good.
One of the worst.
Yes.
This is the thing that you on YouTube where it's like Joe Lynch calls
Doesn't
out
give a fuck.
shitty script supervisor. I don't give a fuck.
Joe Lynch almost gets sued.
Yeah, well,
Clickbait.
we had a script supervisor that, now if you know what a script supervisor does, they are in charge of making sure that everything on the page is shot. They are making sure of things like continuity.
They're also like for the editor making a separate log to demarcate exactly which take the director liked best, what happened on every take. Like honestly, for people who don't get shout out enough on a film crew, it's the script supervisor and the focus puller are two of the most essential jobs to get fucking right.
Because
if you don't get it
them
right,
wrong, yeah, you're fucked.
everything is fucked. Like the big effect, like the umbrella, whatever effect of that to trickle down to everyone else. So fucking, I was the editor. So like, it was brutal.
And
Just
that's
like,
the
I
thing. The trickle
ignored
down
the
effect to you was
immediate.
heartbreaking. Like and like our sound guy Becca had to come over and say like you're recording way too low for the first day.
It was
Like,
a full 7, like peaking 7 decibels lower
Jesus.
than it was. Yeah.
But
It was
these
the
are- these are
Branzino
the
scene,
sort
if
of
I'm not
things-
mistaken.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's
But
why if
these
you
are
ever
the-
watch the movie again, that scene's a weirdly quiet.
Yeah. But the script supervisor, this was the most egregious one. Like the sound guy, look, he was a local dude,
It was only not egregious because after day one, he started like peaking the levels, right? If the whole film had been that quiet, that would have been the most egregious.
it would have been a kung fu movie because we would have had to ADR the whole fucking thing.
Damn.
But the script supervisor thing really irks me. And like, you have one job,
Right.
and that is to make sure that takes are logged, script is crossed out when we're doing it right.
And continuity is
continuity.
adhered to.
And this motherfucker fell asleep half the day.
The
I would-
continuity was like crazy. And I just had to stop giving a shit. I went by the Thelma Schumacher rule of like continuity is less important than performance, or like focus is
Yeah.
less important than performance. I was
Did
like, all
any
right.
make it into the film?
Yes.
Ooh, like what? I haven't noticed one, and I'm usually good with continuity errors.
Good. Well, that's good editing then. Then
Yeah.
then we hit it well.
And good acting because I just cut to performance. And so if you did notice the continuity mistakes, then you weren't looking out for the focal point of the scenes. But yeah, no, they're the few really embarrassing ones.
But at the end of the day, like it's just a matter of we are so lucky to be making movies,
Mhm.
and especially like what?
At the cut point, because we might want to cut this out, but could I say the lime one? That was really bad.
Oh yeah, go ahead,
And then go back to how we're lucky. Just the last kind of like
go for it.
shitty thing that happened on the set. But I wrote into the script, when he goes down into the cellar and there's bodies and everything.
Yeah.
I said,
Forgot all
And he
about this.
switches bodies with her, and then she's
yes,
in the
but
cell.
there's evidence that this has happened before and that the bodies have just been left in the cellar. And I wrote that there was lye there to kind of mask the smell of the bodies.
Yeah.
And the production, I guess
Art director?
art director,
Yeah.
one of their assistants, whoever job it was to source the lye, read it as limes. If you ever watch the movie again,
So there's a
couple of limes.
there's a
There's
bunch
a
of limes
bunch
there.
of
Like someone's gonna
limes.
be making a fucking. They're gonna have a bunch of Coronas.
Margaritas, yeah.
You know?
So yeah, if you ever want to, that's a fun little tidbit, I guess. If you ever want to know what it's like to shoot a movie where you're just kind of, sometimes it's not a matter of making lemonade, it's a matter of making limeade.
Limeade, yeah.
And that's what we had to do quite a lot on Suitable Flesh.
It was the smallest. It was the lowest budget that I've had. It's the least amount of days, and that's one of the things that like is so important and people don't recognize is that the budget should mainly go to how much time you have to be able to do things right. We had 19 days. It turned to 18 days when our crew, the union, we got flipped by the unions because we were a non-union film, and that sucked, and we lost a day out of it. They rectified the situation, but we still lost a day. So a decision that was made early on, where it's like, no, we'll be fine, turned into like, oh, we're not shooting today, or no, even worse, oh, you know what, the crafty can hold the boom pole. No, absolutely not. Or poor Barbara running around fucking like Mississippi trying to find a makeup effects artist or just a makeup artist for a sex scene where our two leads are having this sex scene, and I had to shut it down because like the lady, nice enough as she was not qualified to do something that was supposed to be shot on film. For a prom, absolutely.
Yeah.
But for prom night, no way, So at the end of the day, it's something that is, it's heartbreaking to say, but at the same time, what we were able to get with that time, and I want to end this in a way like in an inspirational sort of way.
And also, I mean, part of what's inspiring for us now is that when you struggle on a set like that with all the things that you listed off just now, when we meet someone like you who still got it,
Yeah.
who still saw through, because there's a lot about the film that like I still struggle to watch it. I mean, part of it is that I edited it, so I've not just seen the movie, I've seen every single possible iteration version of the movie with every single different take
1,000 times, yeah.
1,000 times. So I'm just a little bit like, I struggle. Like I struggle to even, another note to self for future projects or any other people out there watching is if you're doing a temp score, don't pick songs from really good movies.
Don't use Jaws.
Because, or no, we didn't use Jaws,
No,
but we
but-
used a lot of like Paul Thomas Anderson scores actually, and we used some Kubrick. I still can't watch Eyes Wide Shut to this day, like that doom piano without being like, ah. That reminds me of a particular moment in Suitable Flesh. But the joy, like how unbelievably much it means to us to meet someone like you who still sees through all of the, you know, the part of it. Me is like, well, there's scrappy parts of it. Like, it's incredible that we managed to pull through and get what we got, but there's still, you know, you have a vision and it doesn't quite match up sometimes. And when you meet someone who, despite like the vision not matching up, still saw it, that means so much. Like, I can't tell you how much it means to us.
It's incredibly gratifying. You know, like at the end of the day, you're right. Like the vision of the movie that we had in our heads when we left for Mississippi is not the same movie that we ultimately made. And you know what? That happens when you have millions of dollars, and movies are just organic. Things change. But like the fact that we premiered at Tribeca, the movie went on to great success. You know, it did critically, did great, and financially, I think it's doing pretty good. You know, the fact that it's on, you know, Hulu and it was making all the lists and shit like that. Like, for all the hardships that we went through, the biggest one though is the fact that, like, you know, people talk about, you know, working relationships all the time. You know, it's like, you know, sometimes there are relationships where it's good if you don't work with your partner, you know, or your husband or your wife. And this was a true test for us. This was the first time that we were actually, like, we had written something together before, but this was like a jump into the fire situation that I've
co-editing,
seen, not writing, co-editing. And when you're in a room, even if you're not like with if you're not banging the fucking editor, you know, and I can say that both ways here.
But we
know?
had a strict church and state delineation between our relationship, our work relationship, and our home relationship. And you cannot cross that. No. Like, you can't confuse that line because you have to be able to yell at each other because we disagree all the time about creative decisions.
I got thrown out of the edit room many times.
So you guys weren't in synchronicity the whole time.
Oh no, but that's
the
worst.
But in a good creative way, like in a healthy way where, like, there was the scene with the stabbing, you know, the scene where, right? So
the watermelon.
Yes. So that scene was heavily compromised. I had 7 more shots set up for that. And then when it was 6 a.m. and because everything else took so long, like, and we only had one night to do it and there was no coming back, I basically was, you know, I sat there and went, I have 2 angles and I have 3 takes of those 2 angles when I needed 8. So what do I do with it? And I shot it and we fucking moved on. And I thought to myself when I was driving away going, oh, that's a problem for us in the edit room later. I can't think about that now.
Whose idea was the backup camera?
Oh, that was me.
Fucking high five.
But that was something that I thought of in 2007.
Also, it was what, 5 takes?
Yeah.
Every single take, something fucked up, and being, oh my God, on tender hooks at home watching the dailies because I was editing as Joe was shooting, but I knew already that there was no 6th take. No. Like, it was these 5, and I was going through.
And when you look at that list of footage, and you're going, God, please let one of these be good.
Remember, no editor logs from the shitty scripty, so I had no idea. I was just watching it all, and I got to take 3, and like, oh no, she stalled. Oh God, okay. And it's a wanna. So you couldn't just, like, I mean, I guess you could, but it would have compromised your vision.
Yeah.
And she doesn't drive very well, right?
She doesn't drive.
At all.
Well, I mean, I think she drives a little, but she's from New York.
Okay.
So she's, you know, and she even says, like, I barely drive. I'm like, okie dokie, we're going to make this work. Can you drive enough?
Yeah.
And by enough, just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and hit a sandbag a bunch of times. And then I'm screaming on the mic, move back and forth.
Oh my God. In one take, it was almost perfect, but then the camera wasn't screwed in right. So it like
jostled.
Jostled
was the camera
at the end.
on the back of the car?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was ratcheted to the back seat.
Yeah.
And
then take 5, it was take 5, like literally the last take. Perfect. Yeah. I was like,
thank fucking God.
Watching in the Airbnb. Airbnb, like.
I was told that we had 2 takes. So when that 2 takes came and went, and I'm like, fuck, I don't have it. And one of the producers was like, we have to move on. You're gonna have to get in coverage. I'm like, nope, not fucking happening. And I try to keep as genial and as fun a set as possible. And part of that, like, I'm not a screamer, and that is strategic, because when I
he
do scream,
Gotta save your scream.
yeah.
That's
And you know
a
what?
Kubrick thing as
Yeah.
well.
And it's
Well, I
You
feel
and
like he
Kubrick.
screamed all the fucking time.
but when
No,
you
that's
have,
actually a myth. He used to when he first started out.
Yeah.
We just read the Kubrick biography, and apparently someone had a word with him about it, and so he became really quiet on set. But then when he did scream, everyone was like,
Oh, fuck.
"Oh shit!"
and you know what? That's fucking ammunition,
Yeah.
because the times that the few times I did, you could tell everybody was like, whoa, oh
Yeah.
God, the butthole's
Yeah.
clenched up, and it's like, oh shit,
Yeah.
Well, it's like having a jovial like teacher who's always kind of like, you kind of think of you get on well or
Well, oh,
something,
Captain, my
like
captain
authority
guy.
figure,
Yeah.
but you're like, oh, but he's so nice, and then like, and he gets my jokes, and then when you do like snap, you're like, all right, no authority, playtime's over. This is his dad voice, not daddy voice, and
So
like
it's funny
so
because
scary.
you invited me to your next set, and I was thinking about going, but then in the back of my head, I was like, oh man, seeing Joe in director mode. Is it going to be like seeing
No,
the happy
dude.
teacher angry?
Yeah, only if we have that scripty again.
yeah.
Imagine he walks on set.
Well, I find that interesting though, and I want to explore that a bit because from an outsider perspective who only dreams of being on set, you would think that everybody there is grateful to be there and everybody wants to be there. And that wasn't the experience you guys had on Suitable Flesh. Do you think it was the time that the movie was being made, or do you really think it was just the crew? You guys got the wrong people.
I have a theory on this, and that is because there's this there's titles for crew, and they're called like above the line, which is the director, the producers, the director of photography, the art director. It's like all the the heads
editor.
the editor, of course, but like all of the heads of department are on this one plane. And then below the line is, all the people who are working in each of those departments. And, for us, for the above the line, we don't get nearly as much set time to be able to, experience the gratitude of like, we're making movies. It's that Quentin Tarantino thing where he like gets everybody excited by going, what are we doing? We're making movies. And he gets everybody to say that to get them excited. But when you think about how much the below the line craftspeople work, a lot of times they just see it as a gig. They don't see it with the same reverence that we do. And now that's not always true. Like I've met plenty of amazing grips and PAs and craft service people who love it, absolutely love it.
And
I would
a large-
imagine in LA, right? Like people in LA have to be
Yeah.
pretty enthusiastic. Mississippi, not so much.
Well, see, now, what's weird is that I would almost say it used to be the opposite, where in LA, where, you have, a key grip or a camera operator who is working on 12 movies a year, whereas like a director only gets like one movie a year if they're lucky. So the operator goes home at night and they don't have to sweat. If they fucked up a little bit, they don't have to sweat it. The director does, but they see it as a gig. And again, like no disrespect to anybody, craftspeople, but when you start to kind of do things so much, you just start to lose the magic a little bit. Just to become the repetition just makes you just kind of go, eh. Whereas like I use this comparison a lot. Like when I made 2 movies in Serbia, and the difference between a key grip in LA where they're just like, whatever, turn this light on, I'm going to lunch. Same type of position in Serbia where a guy who was just making license plates like a month ago is now lighting a fucking
I don't know.
movie.
I don't know if that's necessarily fair. I do think that it speaks to how important it can be, like as you were mentioning, the atmosphere on set. And a large part of that is the personality or the energy that you're getting from some of the people, including the director. The producers, I would say, would be good. That doesn't necessarily happen too often, but especially even the lead actor.
Yeah.
I would say those are the people that really, they're the cheerleaders almost for the film, because if they're being, it's like not enjoying it, feeling like it's some kind of gig. Like you hear stories about, like if you hear stories about some directors just like, sitting like they're Bernie Sanders, like all pissed off in Video Village with their arms crossed, and you don't I can't imagine. Like Joe on a set is running around,
I love it.
galvanizing everyone, reminding them of why they are there to begin with. And that's making movies. And making movies is magic. And when you have a director like that, who's the first person to be there, the last person to leave, and a lead actor who is there, first thing, last thing, constantly putting, and that's not to say that Heather wasn't, she was a massive team player as well. But like, for me, that's kind of two of the most important parts of that alchemy, that spirit, reminding everyone of the exact reason of like what it is to make a movie and why it's special and why they're putting up with all the shit you have to put up with on an indie set, especially.
And not to retcon what I was saying before and disparage any of the crew members like before, but if I've been on sets before as like PAs, and you know, you want to be the director, you want to be the people that are making the creative decisions, but a movie doesn't get made with 4 people, maybe 6 if it's a Kubrick movie, but like for the most part, it is a very collaborative effort. And sometimes people they either feel disgruntled because they feel like they're just a cog in like the huge engine that it makes this thing going. I learned very, very early on that the more that you can make every single person on set, because at the end of the day, you're not making that movie without every single person that's on that set. Really, like even down to a PA who's locking down a neighborhood, street down the street, you might be getting the most amazing fucking take. And because maybe if that PA wasn't, really feeling it and let a car go through the shot, and next thing you know, your perfect take is ruined by that car that went through that shot. My point is every person is essential on that set.
Right.
So the best thing that you can do is know every single person's name, thank them say good morning to them in the morning, say thank you at the end of the night and shake their hands. I make that a priority.
Yeah.
Because when that collective is working, and it happened a bunch of times on Suitable Flesh.
Yeah, I think honestly it was just that they really hadn't, a lot of the people just genuinely hadn't worked on that scale before. Like it wasn't that they didn't want to half the time. Like, or
they weren't prepared for, holy shit, we are moving fast.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have any time.
So it's a nuanced answer, as I guess what we're saying to that particular question. But I'm, excited to see you on a set where there's like that old adage, like a gun to your head when you're trying to make your day. Suitable Flesh was an AR-15. Oh, no, it was a bazooka to my head, where it'd be nice to have like something a slightly smaller caliber to my head. I thrive on that though. I like, as much as like, it's crazy watching him.
The moment before we call, crews in, right? I am almost about to throw up. My anxiety is just
I get all that, Joe. I get the Joe right before where he's like, his cortisol is hitting the roof, and then I get the Joe after who's just like like complete zombie.
I've really fucked up. I have to go do my shot list now.
The movie. Oh, so carry on.
But that's when I knew that I was cut out for this sort of thing.
Yeah,
was when the second that happens to the moment when we wrap every day, like I'm on top of the world. Because and when you think about it too, you go like, holy shit, I'm making some dumb choice now. Like, not dumb, but like, it's like come up with this like, oh, what if we do a whip pan here? Somebody in fucking Japan is going to see that whip pan and they're going to go, hey, cool whip pan.
I get like a stressed out text or like random time in the, 3 a.m. if you're shooting nights or something, being like, you're about to get in a daily with a bunch of whip pans. I need you to edit that ASAP so that I know if it worked or not. Okay, thanks, bye. Okay. Like, laughing
you did
a
it,
lot.
so thank you.
You're welcome.
But the whole point is that like a good crew will get you over the line. A great crew will really make your job so much easier. And then you can have those, like the extra moments. Like I can't count how many times I've had it where, and it's unfortunate too, because a lot of times producers or even just like the first AD will schedule like all the cool gags, like all the gore effects for the end of the fucking day.
Yeah.
Now to be fair,
gore has been like sitting in it, that poor guy.
To be fair, a lot of times it's the makeup department that's saying we need every second up until the point where you're shooting. So the first AD goes, well, that makes sense. Let's do it at the end of the day. And that's when shit gets cut because unforeseen circumstances. It started to rain. The lunch didn't come in time. All these things that you will never predict, even though you try, happen on that day.
Well, it's
and
the
next thing you
same-
know, now you, instead of having an hour or 2 hours to do this head explosion, you have 15 minutes.
It's like for every great movie you've ever seen, the day to day of making it, you're dealing with the same shit that like
Yeah.
every office is dealing with all the time, like all
Right.
that same. But
Just with
instead
more
of
cameras.
instead of like, minutes and like agenda points getting pushed towards the next meeting, it's like, oh, that incredibly famous shot of, Robert De Niro like walking down a hallway and the camera veering to the left didn't get shot because, they weren't able to make their date. Like that's just the opera, I guess, of making a movie where the stakes are incredibly high for a certain amount of people because they're the only ones who understand completely, basically the director and a few maybe of his closest.
Well, this was a non-union film, right?
At first.
Well,
And
that
then it
probably
had to turn into a union film.
When did it turn into it? On shoot or after?
During the
On
shoot.
shoot.
Literally in the middle of the shoot.
So you guys had to follow rules after that point.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah. I mean,
that's- yeah.
though, see, the thing is that there were certain unions, like I'm DGA, and we had SAG actors, so that was fine. But certain productions, they don't want to pay the premium, for IATSE, and that will come at a cost later on when they shut down, and they strike basically.
Yeah.
And that and truth, and I will have this on record. I said I don't think that's a good idea, and they said, "Oh, but it's going to be fine."
I think it's because we were of a certain budget threshold. It was
Yeah.
very, very unusual. Normally, films that low budget do go under the radar because
Yeah.
it's just not worth it. For
What was the budget?
the
estimated at $2 million.
Okay, so
That's
am
all I can
crazy
say.
for thinking that's a fuck ton of money?
Not when you think about like all the actors, like when you deal with the above the line,
Mm-hmm.
that's where a lot of the money goes.
It's not everything goes on screen, unfortunately.
Mm.
Yeah, so like you have actors that have certain rates that they need to,
And that's
be
not to
adhered
disparage those rates. They've earned them.
Yes.
Was there ever a case where an actor's like, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
Today's on me.
Yeah, I mean
Yes.
that does happen.
Oh yeah. Yep. I had Anthony Mackie, who didn't need to be on set as long as he did on Point Blank.
Yeah. Great
stayed-
fucking homage to 80s action movies,
yeah.
by the way.
Well, thank you. But he was one of those actors who's like, if we needed overtime or if we needed an extra day or two or whatever, he was like, yeah, that's fine. That's a motherfucker that will read the script and go, oh, I'm on the ground. Like I'm laying on the ground for this whole thing. I'm wading in mud this
Yeah.
whole time. He'll jump in and be like, how do you want me? Like there's a lot of people out
And
there
it
that
does
still know
matter.
the magic. Yes.
It really does. I know we hear stories all the time about assholes that still somehow get hired for things, but
Like who?
you know who.
Oh, well.
We'll talk about it another time.
but we do, it happens to Joe all the time where people will call him and be like, this person is up for one of my movies. What should I do? And Joe will be honest. Like people talk in this industry and they are honest about how they were on the set, whether or not they were that cheerleader like we talked about before, or whether or not they were not
Yeah.
quite that. So, it just behooves everyone all the time to try and be a team player and
Yeah.
to just show up.
Well, you know,
Do your
when I
best.
interviewed Chuck, he said something fucking amazing that I loved. And I still remember till this day
Chuck.
when he was coming up in the industry, he would just be a PA.
Yeah.
And he was like, what I'm used to now is that the PA on any of my sets, they want to be a director. They want to be a writer. So, and they make that clear to everybody. I'm only here because I have future dreams.
Yeah.
He's like, when I was coming up, fuck that. I wanted to be the best PA I possibly could be. And I just soaked
works.
in all the information that I possibly could.
Yeah.
And I feel like that kind of energy, that kind of spirit is gone. Everybody's too forward thinking and not enough in the moment and just being grateful that they're there.
I felt that way when I started out, because I started out at Trauma. And now, Trauma is as
Trauma.
Ooh, Trauma. It's as bargain basement as it gets, but they got movies done and they made it in their own spirit. They were very punk rock.
Mm.
And, I worked on this movie called Terra Firma, which weirdly enough was a movie about the making of a Trauma movie
It was the serial
where
killer
a serial
one, right?
killer's
Yeah.
on set. And
Serial.
even weirder is that like the movie that they were making on that set was Toxic Avenger Part 4, and the movie that came out after that movie was the Toxic Avenger Part 4. really mind blowing shit. You know,
Yeah.
like Lloyd worked on a level that I don't think enough people gave him credit for. But I always loved Troma, and I would always say like, you know, like how can you shit on any movie when it's like you have a Troma movie that can be made and still get seen around the world, even though it's made with 59 cents and a roll of duct tape, you know? But when that was my first like official set, student films, of course, but that was my first official set. And I even thought that too. I said like everybody on this set, so I thought, probably sees this as this is just a gig that's going to get me another gig, or that like it's something in between something else. I could not have been happier because I was a huge fan of Troma and I just wanted to be there. I didn't have any aspirations. I knew I wanted to be a director, but I wasn't going to walk around going like, well, what I should really be doing is directing. No,
I would have done it this way.
Yaniv, the other PA and I, Yaniv, were like so happy to be there.
And people see that. And
Yes.
I think when you hear stories about people getting work off of that, you know, their connections they made on set, it's like there's a certain etiquette, I guess. It's not about walking up to a producer and being like, here's my script. It's about doing your best every day. I mean, I got the 3rd degree from Barbara when I first met her because, you know, I was, I guess, a Nepo wife. Nepo baby, Nepo girlfriend. Yeah, at the time. They don't talk enough about us. We're not seen enough. The Nepo
Underappreciated.
but you know, Joe, I only, you know, I was working as an editor in LA, but I was doing like documentary stuff for like Blu-ray labels and very small fry kind of thing. I love that stuff, but you know, it's not exactly a feature film above the line
Different.
So was
editing.
Suitable Flesh was your first?
For feature films, yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
For sure, yeah. No, and it mostly came about because Joe wanted to edit it, and we'd edited together, and you'd seen a lot of my work because I send Joe everything I
was a
do.
fan.
So he'd seen all of my dumb documentary, not dumb, I shouldn't say that.
Don't say dumb.
My lovely,
They're wonderful.
Thank you. Yes, they were very fun. But for sure, Barbara had every right to give me massive 3rd degree when I came on board. And whenever I talk to other people who like get things through relationships and connections, and like a lot of our friends are Nepo babies, it's like, I don't think that you should just own that fact. You know, obviously I wouldn't have been editing Suitable Flesh with Joe if Joe and I hadn't been an item and Joe hadn't had this privileged insight into my work and my way of working. But everyone else, by the time that film was done, that loved, like, they just saw me every day turning up. I was also like, because in the bunker when we were editing, Barbara's this like beautiful woman, so well dressed and well put together. And like the first day that we were in there doing the recut with the producers, I like turned up with like jeans. You know, I wanted to look nice. And by day 2, I was back in the sweatpants, like no makeup, like uncombed hair. Cause you
Pizza
just,
stain t-shirt.
you know, yeah, coffee and pizza stains. And like, cause it's so much work to edit. It's it's really hard. People don't talk about how hard it is. And it's just, you have to show up and just work, maybe not look your best, but just do your best work.
Right.
And everyone, if they see, it doesn't fucking matter how you got the job, who like you knew to get the job, what else you want to do in this industry. If in the parameters within which you got hired, you are 110% showing up for it and doing the best work you possibly can, they're going to remember you. And if within that, like, you know, context of being a good worker, loving movies, being there for the right reasons, they find out that you have this script, they'll read it because they want you to do well, because they like you at this point. They're so happy that you did your best to make this movie. And honestly, like a good PA is worth their like weight in gold on especially an indie film set. And like Barbara had her kids working on the set, and they were hard fucking workers.
Here's a fun fact that I don't think we've ever talked about. The backup camera shot.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. The backup camera shot, the car that Heather's driving is Barbara's car.
Wow.
She drove her Infinity SUV from LA to Mississippi.
Production couldn't afford a good enough car for Heather's character.
Yeah,
and Barbara was
a doctor.
Yes,
And-
exactly.
and-
She was like,
and
this bitch
Barbara
wouldn't be
was like-
driving like a Honda, whatever.
Barbara doesn't get enough credit for she was the producer on that set.
Yeah.
She really was. She was the one who The food wasn't good. She was driving somewhere to go find food for the crew.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have a makeup effects artist. She went out and went to every hair salon in Fondren, Mississippi to find one. She was the one who...
She was the only one not there in name only, I would say.
Yeah.
She was doing the damn job
She
and
was doing
acting.
the fucking job, and she was acting. And Jonah Ray got her fucking sick on the last day because she ate a Twix ice cream bar, and she got deathly ill.
How?
So
Did it have fucking...
He rubbed his dick on it. and was just
probably,
like-
yeah, that sounds about right.
What's wrong
That
with the
checks
Twix
out.
bar?
It's more of it turned into a Dick's bar, unfortunately. But she was sick as fuck, and she had to put and there was a moment where she even said, so I don't think I can keep going.
And true to form, like the last day, like you were saying, all the fucking gore effects and stunt work pushed and pushed and pushed.
Yeah.
That final scene was supposed to be shot over 2.5, 3 days.
It's that whole hallway scene.
Yeah,
in
everything-
the Miskatonic at the
everything
end.
in one
But
day.
so hard. Like half the time it's stunt women, half the time it's really Barbara and Heather fucking gouging each other's
Yeah.
faces out. And like, yeah, it was brutal. But
Barbara could have
her game face was on, being
gone.
gouged.
Like she
Right.
could have been like, I can't go anymore. But then I even had to say to her, I go, what would the producer think? And she goes, fuck yeah, you're right. I gotta keep going. I gotta keep going because we couldn't go back. That was our last day. And I had to fire the scriptie that day too.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I had to say, get the fuck off my set.
That must
I
have been-
never. It felt good because,
Yeah.
but it did have to go that long. The producers even told me like, don't fire him. You know, it's like it's going to look bad if we fire him on day 20. I was like, we're losing shots because anyway, fuck that guy. But what I did want to say to close that loop is that the fact that we were able to work together, right? And look, yes, I hired you for, you know, there was a comfortability and a convenience in one respect. But from the moment that I started seeing some of her work on like some of the special features stuff, whether it's a feature or a short film or a commercial or a documentary, a good cut is a good fucking cut. You know what it's like when you're editing your shit and you go like, God damn, that cut well. There's something just, it gets you excited, right? I was getting Cinnaboners left and right, you know, over some of the things that she was coming up with, story-wise, style-wise, that it was, for me, it was a no-brainer. It wasn't even me going like, oh, you know, I didn't even think about like, well, it's my girlfriend. Not at all. I didn't even think about that. I just went like, I really want to hire this person to edit the movie with me, you
Right.
know, but also someone that could tell me if I'm full of shit or if I'm
Not
too much in
afraid.
my head going like, but I need this shot. I spend all, you know what? That's the last thing that an editor should be doing is satisfying the director because they spent all day on a shot when it's not working in the movie, you know? And at the end of the day, the most successful thing that could have come out of A Suitable Flesh, other than a pretty damn successful movie that I'm really proud of, despite all the hardships. Every movie's hard. That one was one of the hardest, and I'm really proud of it. But we worked together, and we didn't kill each other. And in fact, we got married.
Yeah, you guys are still together.
And we're still working together. There's probably situations where, you know, future husband and wife worked together on a film set, got married and said, I think we're good. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
we don't, you know what, let's separate church and state and not have that
Well, we
working
do though.
relationship.
We make
Well,
sure
yeah.
not to discuss work in our home.
But
like
we're
we
still
always go to an
working together.
office space. Yeah, but I do
Do you
think
guys
that's
really
important.
keep up with that though? Like there has to be times where you can't contain it. You're so
Well,
excited
no,
about
I
something.
mean, I'll
Well,
ask
we have our
Joe.
walks.
Yeah, I'll ask if we can talk about it on the walk.
Can we talk to can we tell them what the walks are
Well,
called?
they're fart walks.
I've heard fart walk a couple times.
Yeah, well, it's,
Yeah.
you know, you have a big, it's ostensibly dog walking.
You have a lot of lentils.
Yeah, you eat like a healthy, high fiber diet. You get your beans and lentils in. It's a little heavy.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, it's nice to take a breath after eating dinner, go walk the dog. And we have a very lovely neighborhood. We live in a very nice part of Burbank, Toluca Lake area of LA, and it's super safe. Not Hollywood. So you can go for a walk at like 10 o'clock, midnight even with your dog, and you don't have anything to worry about. Sometimes the odd coyote,
Yeah.
but no,
happens.
it really happens. But yeah, it's that that's where I'll ask Joe
we can decompress
to
and then
download all like his information. We'll have notes of like all our information.
I
from
literally
the
have
game.
a notes thing on my phone where
You
it's
have,
like,
like,
here are all the topics
things
Yeah.
to
that
talk
we need to
back
talk about. You know?
But like, yeah, for proper work, like real, you know, where we're hashing out like a script and it's like genuinely going to be like a day of work or like editing, then 100% not in the home. Yeah. I think that's crucially important.
Which sometimes is tough because what do we have on all the time? Movies. We're always watching movies.
There's a difference between casually discussing some work things and being like, oh, that shot's amazing. Like that would be a great thing to like reference in this scene of like this other movie. That's okay. That's fine. But like a real work session where you're going to be like, we get into fight, like your point before, like it's not, you know, I guess it is kind of a form of, you know, what's the word you used of like alchemy or like where things are. So synchronicity.
Yeah.
It's a form of synchronicity, but like in that you get to a better place by arguing.
Yeah.
I don't think you can get to a good place creatively if you're not willing to if you don't have a writing or an editing partner who is going to disagree with you. Like, you know, you need to have that. The disagreements are where you find often the magic moments in between that. And we argue a lot when we're working together.
But that's good though. Like
I'm saying it's a good thing, but I'm just saying it's like, no, we don't need that energy. It would be harder if we had those fights and then in that same space we're like, well, anyway, what do you want for dinner? I don't know.
how about some lentils?
If
Taco
you're
Bell.
putting like a real, at least for us, that's what works. It's like having that real like geographical element of like your dividing lines of where you are allowed to talk like that. And then at home, it's like you have like, they're the drive, they're the decompression that happens. They're if you want, you can go take a walk, take a beat by yourself. And then at home, you're the husband, wife, whatever people.
Right.
So for us, I think that would be, I would advise that to any other couple out there working together. What about you and Alex? Do you like?
No, we don't really work together too much. She's more into like physical art. So she likes painting and sculpting. I'm more into writing and, you know, pulling things out of my ass to come up with something entertaining.
Well, that's also physical art. You know, I've seen some art where people literally pull shit out of their ass and put it on a canvas.
Shaped as a dove.
Yeah, I've heard of this ass juice that you love so much.
Juice.
Oh, that's a whole nother thing, man.
Dude, tomorrow.
I can't believe
Wednesday
how
hump
someone
day, ass
Yeah.
juice
Hump
day.
day.
someone on my Instagram saw, because last time that I was here, you know, like we got a toilet that is used as a shot
Yep.
at the Double Down, which weirdly enough is where I love how Rusty's like, ass juice.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
By the way, Rusty, these are amazing. Thank
Good job.
you. You
Thank
can
you.
tell like with the burnt orange peel. Nice job.
Bravo. I love how everyone's going, who the fuck is Rusty and why are they talking to
This
him?
is why you
We
need
gotta get a
Rusty
camera.
Cam.
Yes, you really do. But I directed a music video for this band, Black Dahlia Murder, back in the day.
OG.
And that's where we ended up at the Double Down. So
Can't
to
wait.
go
it
back,
didn't end well, right?
oh God, there was vomit everywhere.
Exactly. Nothing ends well at the Double Down.
No.
Well,
that's
when I
not
say
true.
well, I mean for your vowels.
we had a well, yeah, that's
To
true.
be specific.
But then we ended up.
But your
I
soul
left,
is intact.
Exactly.
I left with an
more
ass,
intact.
Yeah.
an ass juice toilet as a commemorative memento of the evening. And then I had it in a picture on Instagram, and someone like zoomed in on it and went, "What is this ass juice?" And well, you know, you're
Then
gonna
that's
find
where
out
you
soon
just
enough.
tag Talks from the Crypt and just like
No,
point to Brandon.
I tagged the Double Down Saloon.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I want ass juice just be more part of your brand and our brand.
At
Yeah.
the time,
That's
we were
just more-
keeping it secret. I remember that.
Yeah,
the first
that's
time he
true.
came out, we were like, let's keep it secret.
Yeah,
and
on
then I
the
found out
down
no
low.
one gave a shit. So I was like, fuck it. We're going to come out with that.
It's
I've
fine.
never been on a proper night out in Vegas, so
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Have you been to Vegas before?
Yeah, no, this is my first proper time, I should say. I've been to Vegas during COVID for a friend's wedding, but
Yep.
that was all very
all
like
during
bubbled.
lockdown. It was 28 days later. Shit.
Yeah, we couldn't really leave. Like we were told we weren't allowed to leave the hotel where it was all taking place. Like we had a bus take us to the Elvis Chapel. So I guess that was pretty Vegas-y.
The Little White Chapel.
Yes.
Yep.
And then a bus back on
Yeah.
to the hotel and then in the suite and we
Whose
could not
fucking
leave.
wedding was it?
It was my
Joe's old
former
manager.
manager. Yeah. Yep.
So Hollywood.
Very.
Yeah.
very, yes.
Hollywood by way of Vegas.
But I would have loved. I mean, I've just heard Joe's stories of the Double Down and the strips, and I'm a big dive bar kind of fan. Like, I love just finding a table with good people and just having, cheap drinks. Just like just talking and getting to know people, having some of those, inhibitions like weighed down slightly, just enough, hopefully not too much, but just enough where you're just like free flowing, because we have such trouble talking.
Really tough. Really need that liquid lubrication.
I love it. I love it.
That's so I'm not sure, because you mentioned that the Double Down might have a band playing, and I don't know if that's
sometimes
like,
they do.
I'm more
Well,
of
it's
like,
going to be a Wednesday, so probably not.
Yeah, so
Okay.
don't worry about
So
it.
It's
all
a
good.
weekend thing.
yeah.
But then the other time that we were in Vegas was for Joe Bob's Jamboree.
Oh yes,
Fuck yeah.
that
which
was
at
great.
the drive-in, which
but
was
it wasn't
great.
Vegas proper.
But it wasn't
outside.
Vegas. It was at the drive-in, which was really cool. Have you ever been to that drive-in?
Westwind, yeah.
The fact that they have 4 screens that are almost, because like the old paradigm for, like the old structure paradigm for drive-ins was that like you'd have the projection room like booth in the middle, and you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4. Like it'd be like kind of cross-cutting with each other.
Yeah.
And here, it's like all next to each other. So to watch all these, like, there were
the Universal Classics night.
there was the Universal Classics night, which was Saturday, but
I
Friday,
got really mad because Houdini was referencing James Cagney, and he meant to say
wait, Ghoulardi?
Ghoulardi,
Yeah.
was it? Not Houdini.
No, not Ghoulardi. That's P.T. Anderson's dad.
I
No,
thought it was Houdini. No,
No.
who's the other?
I like how this whole thing has circled back to PTA.
Oh yes, all
Thank you.
things do,
Bro.
bro.
Movie of the year, bro. Anyway, but the way that they structured it was John Carpenter night. So Carpenter was there, and they showed Prince of Darkness and The Thing. Was it?
No, was it The Thing?
I know they showed.
I
one
don't
of them.
know. Our friend brought out a bottle of bourbon, and I
the
didn't.
fucking Cargills showed up, right? Because they go to the Jamboree they used to go every year, and they of course went this year, and they invited us out, and we were like, well, because we knew Joe Bob and Darcy from the show, and they hooked us up, so that was really nice. But the first night, within 2 hours, we were just.
Yeah, well,
Messy.
they didn't have any mixer, and straight bourbon tends to just like go right through, like to the absorbed by all the brain cells, and my brain cells go, oh dear, and then like die real fast.
Yeah.
And so there's a certain point of that night where I just kind of. Yeah, I've learned since then that I'm best when I, have a certain amount of the delicious
Spirits.
bullet bourbon that I love, and then also just mix it with
That's why you got to
some-
switch to tequila.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's like
Jesus
the cocaine
Christ.
of alcohol.
Oh Lord.
Um,
No, that's bad news. That's where underwears go on heads, and people wake up and there's tigers in their fucking suites
Right.
and shit, and Mike Tyson's punching them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But those are the only 2 times that you've been proper Vegas, and both times we never did the strip.
Yeah.
So even just
So
walking around the strip
I still
yesterday.
say no in the sense of Vegas, like when people talk about it, and it's all the, I guess, cliches of like going out.
Yeah.
And we were only just walking up and down the strip yesterday was like, it kind of, well, it sort of reminds me of like amalgamation of like Universal City Walk, but then like also New Orleans a little bit, and then also
Right.
New York a little bit. So like it's just kind of the
But with that
super
extra,
urban theme
like,
park.
huckster kind of attitude, like this guy goes, like says, like, nice hat to me, and then immediately starts a conversation with Becca because she made eye contact, and that was all it took for him to be like, come on over here, I want to get you comped for all this stuff. We have free money. And
For
I'm
a
like,
second, I was like,
we gotta
free
get
money.
the fuck out of
Joe
here.
was like, come on, Becca. I
No,
was
come
like,
on, this is a grift. We gotta fucking go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
you're
was
already
very sweet.
wise to all the Vegas tricks.
I've been here enough to know you never give someone your phone to take a picture because they're not giving it back unless you get $20 or
Yeah.
you give them $20. I know all those fucking schmo tricks, those grifts.
And we're not big gamblers, so
Yeah.
we don't really like. I love the movie Casino, but I don't know that I would spend, and Ocean's 11 and all that fun stuff. But
That's
I mean,
why I feel like you guys would like downtown more than the
yeah.
strip.
Well, I loved the place you took us to for dinner last night.
Circa.
Because it was a like modern cooking sensibility, but
Yeah.
like all the classics of like a Vegas steakhouse. Like they had paintings on the wall of Lauren Bacall and classic Hollywood starlets, and then Frank Sinatra playing. But then, you could order, I know you don't like this, but you could order your steak blue and not like charred within an inch of its life.
Blue is crazy.
No, it's not. I grew up
She's
in
so
France.
European.
I'm like,
See?
well, Belgium, but like blue is how it's meant to be. It's meant to move slightly so as you like.
She puts
cut
snails on
into it.
top and shit. It's fucking weird. Put
Snails
some
are
weird
classic
Swiss
steakhouse
cheese and-
appetizer. I would never put
I'm kidding. I'm just now I'm pissing her off.
Yeah, no, it's meant to be simple. Like you char it, it like kisses the frying pan, like
Right.
just through enough, but it's still red all
Just
the
the
way.
tip.
Nice
It's just the
smooch.
tip.
Yeah,
It's just a little.
Yeah.
just the tip, and
Little
just
tip.
simple. It should just be a good cut of cow, grass fed, salt and pepper.
But walking.
All you
around-
need. Joe like smothers it in béarnaise sauce.
Oh, Bernays is my
Just-
shit.
Oh my
Jizz-
God.
Jizz that
Why don't you
béarnaise
just
all
eat
over,
your own
baby.
shoe, guys? Like really,
eat my shoe right now.
just
If you put
smother it in
béarnaise on his shoe, I would eat the fuck
Yeah.
out of it right now.
Literally, like well cooked steaks. It reminds me of like the steaks that like James Stewart orders and like the man who shot Liberty Valance. Just
Who's
like
gonna do the impersonation? Someone's got to do it.
James Stewart.
I'm Jimmy Stewart.
There's a really cute clip where he impersonated himself when they asked him about how he proposed to his wife, and he was like, "Well, I popped the question last night, and she said yes," and it's so cute. I love him so much.
What's funny is that you were talking about old Vegas, walking around the strip. Like I hadn't been able to like walk around the strip in a long time, since probably the music video, since Black Dahlia Murder, where it was walking from point A to point B. And yeah, I used to come here a lot because I used to work at G4, and G4 would always cover the CES convention in
Yeah.
January, which also was the AVN Awards, which was this weird fucking crossover between nerds and fucking
Horn
sex-
dogs.
sex stars and shit.
Yeah.
It was amazing. But it's been a while. And now walking around, it's the same feeling that I have when I walk around Times Square, where it's just it's LED porn.
Yeah.
It's so well lit that it doesn't have the same quality or the same feeling, like even just that sense of like danger and edge
Yeah.
that I remembered. And this is probably the reason why we love watching like 80s sleazecore movies from New York City, like all the Abel Ferrara movies and
Back
Frank
when it had
Henenlotter.
character.
Yeah. But like when you know what, if you wanted to get, casually knifed, you walk down 47th.
If you
and
want,
eighth,
who
know.
doesn't want to get
Who doesn't want to get
casually
casually
knifed
knifed
on a
you know?
Wednesday? You
But
know?
there was something, but that also associates with movies,
Right.
because there was so much fun to watch movies in the 80s, especially where it was set in New York City, like Basket Case 2 or King of New York,
The Henenlotters,
Frankenhooker, where you're looking, and even like studio movies too, where you would see the marquees on all of the Times Square theaters, where you'd be like, holy shit, 48 Hours is playing there.
Yeah.
Wait, 48 Hours played with One from the Heart? It's like, that's madness.
One of our dream projects that we still have. Like we've got a lot of like the
Got a lot of dreams.
research done, but like we have one unrealized project where we have all these character pages and themes, and we even have some of the bullet points of the scene breakdown worked out. Is a period sleazecore piece with these two like young women in New York in the 80s, and that's definitely, I know. Should we say the title?
Yeah, fucking A.
Say
It's the title came first.
Yeah, Joe
And
told me
immediately I
the
went-
title, and I was like, I
And
want to
I
make
love
this.
that.
What's
That's
crazy-
interesting how writing works.
Yeah.
Sometimes like you think of a title.
It's an idea. Sometimes it's a shot. Sometimes it's a character's name.
Sometimes it's a song.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
yeah,
then you
vibes.
go, ooh, I could put that song to a movie. What movie? Maybe this movie, maybe this idea. And the next thing you know, you're writing it into the
Right.
script.
We were just talking about that. Literally a Roy Orbison song. I was like, dude, this would be a fucking really cool. I don't even.
I
wanna
love
say,
that.
but-
No,
don't. We'll
don't.
steal
Save
it.
that.
Don't tell
Save
it
that.
to us.
But I was on the set of Point Blank. I probably gotten fired already twice that day. And I was in the back of this, it's a car called a Biscuit. And what a Biscuit does is it's a car that's designed, it's like a rig that's designed so that you can have like a 360 shot outside of the car while the actors are actually driving. And there's a stunt guy on the top, which looks really funny in production shots. There's a guy on the top that's actually driving the car,
Yeah.
right? But the camera's sliding all over the place. Yeah, there you go. Hey, look, the research actually works.
Actually, a
That's fucking great.
car made of biscuits.
And then
right
there's
down
also
the
a
bottom
shot
line.
of a biscuit.
It'll
Yeah,
sop you
that's
up.
great. It looks delicious.
I
But
know.
yeah, see, so
Fuck. I feel like
so
Homer Simpson.
I'm on
Biscuit.
the top of this
I
thing.
know. I do that all the time. Joel have an
Biscuit.
analogy with food involved, and I'm just in the corner like,
Ah.
peanut butter,
Yeah.
brisket.
Like
So
Ed
anyway,
from
so
Ed,
I was
Ed, and Eddie.
on. Guys, I'm trying to
90s kid
steer.
reference.
You know what? Go fuck yourselves.
Sorry,
I hear this.
sorry,
I have
sorry.
this great fucking
yeah,
anecdote
no.
that I
Anyway,
haven't told a
back
million
to-
We're
times.
hungry. We're hungry.
Yes, I am too.
You said biscuit.
So on the biscuit,
All it
came up
takes.
with this idea, and like immediately I'm like, I need to make a fucking movie out of that. And the title's called Savage Neon.
Mm.
And right, like it's just there's and immediately it
Alliterative,
went,
like
you gotta set that in
some kind of an automatic
1979,
key.
1980.
Yeah.
You know, it has that feel of like, you know, like something that you would see on a marquee.
Reminds
in
me.
See the
1980.
logo.
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
Yep.
It reminds me of when that like 80s hair metal thing we were watching where the guy was like, it just sounds right. Savage animal.
Oh, it's Sebastian Bach.
Yeah. So
Savage
like
animal.
one of those like documentary things.
It was one of those making the band things
Yeah.
that Sebastian Bach was in. And like he and the like Scott Ian and all these
so
guys are
Adam
coming
and
up with a
I
name.
during COVID would just watch these before Adam found, you know, his lovely wife now, who he watches all of these. She's as much of a glutton for the reality treatment as he is. They just lock themselves away and watch it. But back in COVID days, we would watch them with Adam. And for some, I've like written it all over your bathroom at the office.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those kind of things where you just want to say it because it just sounds nice, like that
Savage
random collection.
animal.
But Savage Neon has
Yeah.
that same evocative kind of, it's just fun to say.
Right.
And yeah, like Joe told me that title and he was like, I really want to make it where it's kind of like blowout, but it's with these women, real women written from a women's gaze. And yeah, we've got like, that's one of we have so many like random
Set in New
unrealized
York?
projects. Yeah, in the 80s. Like
Fuck
that's
yeah.
a dream.
Set in 1980 during when
Maniac was being
when-
made
yep.
and all these.
Maniac actually figures into the movie.
Yes.
That's
Dude,
the point.
Maniac Cop.
Yeah.
Like New York is a part. It's a character
Yeah.
in the film.
100%. And Joe and I, we were
I was
obsessed
actually
with that.
inspired by, and I'm sure like this is one of those moments where it's like, oh, have you seen this show? And someone goes, oh, I haven't. Have you ever seen The Deuce?
Yes.
You did.
No.
But no.
Well done though.
Highly-
You are ready
that
to
was
move to
good.
LA.
Absolutely.
That was convincing. Have
highly-
you seen
highly
this? Do you know
recommended.
this? Yes. Or you say, you know, I think I've heard of that. That's a very LA
Right.
thing. Like,
or
you know.
I saw it, but a long time ago.
Yeah, the classic.
Yeah.
but I can't remember a single thing about it. But I
Yeah.
have watched it. And
Who's in that again? Steven Spielberg? Oh no. But no, it's a HBO show about the rise and ultimate fall of the porn scene in New York.
Mm.
And it's fucking great.
Yeah, it's
So-
only like 3 seasons.
It's 3 seasons
and it's
it
every decade of the New
it
York
spans
sleeper.
the
So you
70s,
see,
the 80s, and then like no, the 70s, it's like 70, late 70s, and then like early 80s.
yeah,
But
it's
the thing that got me
amazing.
was they did in such a great way, but using both digital but also redressing like Harlem, which like, you know, go up above 100th Street and it still kind of looks.
well, you hear
like
about
old New
Kubrick
York.
creating New York out of some of the streets, like, you know, if you go like to Oxford Circus or
Mhm.
something, there are streets, like creepy little alley streets that could be New York. Like if you don't know, you're in, it's super high buildings. You're, you know, with Tom Cruise down this little like dirty little street. You dress it a tiny bit, put up maybe one of those like American like crosswalk signs.
Yeah.
Who's to say like some of those zip code, do you call them zip codes?
Yeah.
There? Zip code signs, change some of the license plates on cars. That's who's to say that's not New York? So I
Right.
mean, there's ways of doing it. You do just need some, you know, Kubrick wasn't hurting for budget. So
No.
you do need, so that's one of those dream projects, you know,
Yeah.
we've got a few, we've got some, you know, like every director or like filmmaking team, I think out there. I mean, even just talking to you last night, everyone's got these kind of like little creative, and it could be a little log line or a
Even
character.
the waiter's husband.
Yeah.
Why I don't talk about it.
You never know.
You never know. Honestly, just keep like plugging away at things, and just I think it's definitely because even if it doesn't quite materialize or get realized in the way that you expect it to, I know there's certain like little beats of a script that I've ended up plugging in places that I didn't think I would I would do at the time. Even just like watching movies and writing down things
Yeah.
that inspire you.
Just
That's,
come up with little,
Yeah.
like these little nuggets. That
you're
you
never
go,
not
you never know where
working,
that's-
really. Yeah. You're constantly like absorbing stuff from osmotically, even from all these different elements. I mean, like going back to what we were talking about to begin with, is that like, you know, I think if you could not be a filmmaker and not build your life around the incredibly difficult and insecure and difficult, like unpredictable nature of the industry, especially as it is right now, you would. Like I tried to be on the other side of the table and work in distribution and stuff. But like ultimately, if you are like just built, if your lifeblood is movies, there's nothing you can really
legitimately
do.
cannot help
That
it.
you can't, like when people ask me like, how do you do it? It's like, it's more like how I couldn't not do it. Like
I would
if I
kill myself if I didn't.
yeah, like honestly, like it's just, I tried not to, and I
Yeah.
became like depressed because it's all that you're built your life around it, and it's those kind of people that you can see on set, like, you know, Barbara's kids busting a nut every day to make sure that certain things
Busting
happen.
a nut with
You know,
what,
is that
what
not
kind of
an
production was
expression?
this?
Did you say
Busting a
busting
nut.
a
Come
nut?
back
Yeah.
to ass
Fuck.
juice.
See?
Anyway,
Can you just put that in a loop?
Real passion.
Yeah.
that's
Bust a nut.
what does it mean?
That means ejaculating.
Yes.
Well,
you had to get all scientific about it.
I mean, you know,
They weren't busting nuts
the
on the
body
set
fluids
that we
of
know
cinema,
of.
Right.
They
cinema
did.
boner.
Both of them were stand-ins for most of the
Yes.
actors, so
So
they
they
could
would-
have vicariously simulating busting nuts. Barbara's gonna watch this and she'll be like, "Yeah, you guys are fucking morons."
But anyway, they really wanted to be there, and like I think, like us right now, like we all just want to be here. We want to try and make these things work, and like even like the hardest 2 years that Joe and I have ever been through in our lives have been like the last 2 years of this industry since Suitable Flesh, and just having projects start to get off the ground and not quite make it all the way there.
Well, it's interesting to hear you guys talk about Vegas with such reverence because the novelty is still there for you guys.
Yeah.
I grew up here, so the
Exactly.
novelty is fucking gone. But like,
Was it
then
ever there?
when I was young, yes. But when I hear you guys talk about Hollywood, it sucks because I feel like that novelty is gone for you guys as well. And it makes me
Well, the
legitimately sad.
industry,
I think that's the
is
give
brutal.
and take in that we are living there. And, you know, people have said this for years, like LA, great place to visit, terrible place to stay.
But,
you know,
but like
that's
when
every,
you guys
that
are
could be every
walking
city.
Rocco or around the fucking neighborhood and everybody's decorating for
Yeah,
Halloween.
no, I do
and-
love that neighborhood. I would stay there, to be honest. It's just very, I don't know.
Expensive.
It's very expensive. It's I also want to own a nice house.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's also a part of the question is right now.
But is that not a part of the grind of living out there? Is like, you know, we got to make something happen.
to
so
a
we can-
point? But also,
Yeah.
ever since COVID, the industry is just like on your laptop. To be honest, like
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of great friends in LA still, and that
Do you
would
guys
be
like it that way though?
What you
Like,
mean? Like
oh,
not
having-
Being
being
on your laptop.
No,
Like,
I mean, it's good that we can edit on our laptop and
Oh
we can
yeah,
do,
and, like
we can write
travel
on
with
it.
work. I mean, I'm like even
Half of this job is relationships, eye to eye relationships with people, talking with people, conversing, commiserating, connecting, and you just don't get that over Zoom. You
Right.
just don't. Like we were talking before, like
pitching over Zooms are
pitches over Zoom, not the same
Rough.
thing. And there's an art to it. The one thing.
you just have to work really a lot harder because your
Yeah.
energy is not organically there.
Mm.
So to
a
communicate
simulation
energy
of
and
it.
chemistry,
Yeah.
like especially Joe and I together, we're just like super, like if we were doing this over Zoom right now,
It
we would
wouldn't be
have
the
to be,
same.
it's like, you're almost like a Muppet. You're
Yeah.
performing so hard because you're just like, hey guys, oh my
And
God,
you-
I'm so excited. Like,
and
please
you
be
can't-
excited for our pitch.
You can't tell if someone is, I don't know, watching porn while you're pitching, which has happened before to me.
or just they
Yep.
don't even turn their camera on at all, which is
Oh.
always such a like
it's so
disheartening.
disrespectful. I'm sorry.
and you don't want to be the guy that asks them to turn the
No, of
camera
course.
on.
Well, especially if you're pitching, you're in a weird power dynamic anyway. But
Yeah.
like, it feels like, you know, you're there, but you didn't show up,
Right.
and it's like you don't. The worst thing you can think to yourself before a pitch was an incredibly nerve wracking, on the spot, vulnerable position because you worked hard on something and you're putting your heart into something, and to like feel like someone's got this green light power on
Yeah.
whether or not this becomes real or not. And to you, it already is real. The worst thing you can possibly think of in that moment is that they don't care,
Mm.
or that you've already lost a job. Like the
Yeah.
job's not there anymore. So Yeah, I don't know. It's not, you can't tell in a room necessarily either, but at least.
No. I think I disagree with that. I think that
I haven't
there's-
actually done it in a room that often. I've just heard horror stories in a room from Adam and people too.
In
but-
most cases, when you're in the room, you can feel immediately whether or not you have a captivated audience, the pitch is working well or not. That is so much harder to decipher when you're on a Zoom. It's just a completely different dynamic.
And then like the Zoom call ends and you've been in this incredibly high adrenaline space of just like, like I want to do good. And then it's just like click. And then suddenly you're just back in your office and like nothing.
And
there isn't like a walk even to a car or
That's
anything.
what I mean, though.
It's
Like, I
so
think that
weird.
there's
You're just like,
something- there's
what do we do
something-
now?
There's something to be said about even just the process of going from, you've been working on the pitch in your house, right? Or your office, whatever, like your familiar space. And then you have to get in your car, and it's LA, so it's going to be about an hour. But you know what? That time that I'm in my car, I'm rehearsing. I'm working through shit, I'm also like the day that you lose that nervousness, like, we were talking about anxiety before a shoot. The day you lose that anxiety means you don't care anymore, which means get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Honestly, that anxiety just means you care. I learned that from the Spielberg doc when Spielberg even said, I every morning I get butterflies in my stomach to this day. And you're like, it's fucking Steven Spielberg. If he's still getting butterflies, he clearly cares, one would hope. So that commute, that's essential. That's part of the process.
Yeah.
Then you get there and you're not in your element. You're like performing in a way, or you're on in an uncomfortable or at least an unfamiliar surrounding.
Well, I remember you came back from your AFM pitch last week or the week before and you were like buzzing because
Yeah.
you did a good job.
I'm so glad. And
No pun
originally-
intended.
Yeah.
Originally, it was going to be
In joke though, because no one. Oh wait, no, it has been announced.
Well, it's been announced, but we haven't talked about why I was there at the AFM.
Well, because he said no pun intended for you
I
were
heard.
buzzing.
Yeah, so we're talking about my new movie Buzzkill.
There you go.
Hopefully in
Buzz.
production soon.
Hopefully, it will be in production soon.
But
You have
knock
no
on
wood to knock.
Yes. Well,
no, this is
Knock on
Hold
your
on.
dick.
this is foil over wood,
Oh, there we go.
there's an
Trick.
underbelly. Oh, there you go.
or this is wood.
But so if you're not familiar, the AFM is the American Film Market, and it's where everybody goes who's got a pitch, who's got a production, who's got a finished film, or who's looking to buy films to put out. Everybody goes there. And, it's weird because it is a bit of a meat market, but thankfully our production company that was putting it together was doing everything behind closed doors, which was a little more exclusive, which was great. Kind of adds a little air instead of being down on the floor and being like, hey, everybody, I got this new movie.
Right.
It stars
Get
Bo
your apples.
Bridges as a John Wick-esque preacher. Very weird. But I had to meet with this
Kinda wanna
one
see that movie.
production company. You should see the poster. It looks fucking amazing.
Is it online? We should. I want to see it now.
Look up
Bridges.
Bo Bridges priest John Wick-esque or something. I don't know. I mean, maybe the movie got bought or no.
A24 is latest thing.
But half of those movies that are there are like, kind of schlocky. The fact that we were there was good
The
because
red
we were
box
just
or
dealing
whatever.
with distribution. Like we had the money and everything, but we wanted to kind of secure all that. And they were really smart because the movie, it deals with, alcohol being part of whether you can see the creature or not.
Is that it?
No, I don't think. But we do have a shirtless shot of Bo Bridges.
Maybe do
Which is wonderful. We can
Look
just
at
leave
that
that
guy.
on. Mm.
Nice.
BEAU.
I think it's one of those movies that hasn't even been shot, but when you look at the poster, it's like Bo Bridges' head on Keanu Reeves' body as he's like in action stance or whatever.
Literally, or just like
No,
figuratively?
no, literally. I
Yeah.
think half those posters that AFM, that the
They're just
name of the game for a lot of, especially those kind of red box movies, is like selling international rights.
Yeah.
Because like you can still make back your MG with just like putting Mel Gibson or Bo Bridges or like these kind of names that you wouldn't think
Yeah.
of anymore as
or
headlining.
Jean-Claude Van Damme
Yeah,
or John
on
Cusack or Lorenzo
putting
Lamas.
them in an like AFI in an
Nicolas
AI
Cage.
generated like movie poster with like an Uzi in the background and a hot bikini girl, and that
Right.
just slap it on a poster and just hope to sell international rights based off these like USPs. But what Joe's was very different because they already had a package and part of the package was Joe, and as it were, and that's why they didn't have him on the floor. They had him as part of like, you know, behind the scenes.
If they were serious,
select
then
meetings.
they meet with the wizard.
Yes. But anyway, my point was
The Wizard
that
of Buzz.
I've never been able to pitch in the room. So I was sad that I didn't get to see.
If I had done that pitch
But I've
on
loved
a Zoom,
pitching with you.
yeah, it's a blast.
Yeah.
Well, when you're
I wanted to ask actually whether you preferred pitching with me or when by yourself.
definitely with you.
Okay,
I'm not
good.
gonna,
Good answer.
I'm a fucking moron. I'm not gonna be like, I prefer to pitch
By
without
myself.
you. Yeah.
Well, it's a
solo.
different discipline.
But it's also
For me, it was incredibly helpful because I get massive anxiety before a pitch, and it's about breathing. So I've worked really hard on, you know, doing the 3-4-5 breathing technique and things like that to try and like, you know, exercise has been a really big part of that, but trying to center myself and just the knowledge that I have a partner sitting next to me. And even on Zoom, it actually made it better because I was like, well, we're sitting next to each other in the Zoom call. If I like tap your knee or whatever, like it means I'm having like a panic attack.
yeah, like take over. It's like
Yes.
it's a wrestling moment.
Jump in.
You know?
Yeah,
It's a tag team
exactly.
moment, like tapping out.
And I never had to because once
Nope.
once you get going, all that anxiety, it's like you have all this anxiety and adrenaline up until the moment where you're actually on, and then you talk and you're like, oh, I know
It's
how
not
to
that
do
bad.
this.
Let me ask you this.
Die.
Yeah.
Because I'm the same way. Like even when we do our show, A Couple of Old Fashions on YouTube now,
ACOS.
whenever we do
Put
it,
up the link now.
we, you know, like right up to the moment when, because we shoot that show, like this is some fancy
Oh, your
shit.
setup is stunning.
We
We
have
aspire.
My laptop.
We're in our
both of
garage band years.
Both of our fucking iPhones with like basic color correction. We're not using mics other than the mics that we stole from Movie Crypt, basically.
Yeah.
And it is as slapdash as it comes. But it's still a blast to do. I love it. But the moment up until I push record, even the moment after I push record and I clap for sync and then we're doing color correction, I'm a ball of anxiety because I got to talk next to Miss fucking expert over here, you know?
That's how I feel with you two. I'm like, Jesus,
But
I got to keep up with movies with these guys.
But let me ask you this, and use this as an example. After we started rolling and you started kind of getting going, did you have any of that anxiety?
No, it goes away in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes?
Yeah, it takes about 10 minutes for me every time.
Gosh, but you couldn't tell though, to
Well,
be honest.
I appreciate
You
that.
seem very secure
I would not.
and assured.
Honestly, there was a definite difference between the Brandon that was like putting stuff aside here, and I was even like, you looked a little tense, you know. And then once we clicked, you know, our glasses and we were off to the races, we were all just having a fucking blast.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like the anxiety wasn't there anymore. And the same thing happens when we get going on the show.
or
and it's
on
the same
anything where you're
Yeah.
like on, so to speak.
Whenever the first shot is called on a set, or whenever like we have to be on, whether it's a pitch or anything, you know that you're destined to do it and that you care if that anxiety melts away when you're actually in the shit.
But in all of those circumstances, I mean, I've only mostly exclusively worked with you during my career so far, and just knowing that you've got even writing a script, I'll do it by myself, and then but I know that you're the first person who's going to be reading that and going to be, you know, giving a second pass and like having that perspective to be able to like pick out the best parts or like the visual. He's also a lot more visual than I am as a writer. I'm very like obsessed with dialogue and character and themes and stuff. And then Joe will be like, oh, but you know, it'll look really fucking sick as if we it'll be fucking gnarly. I've never seen that shit in a horror movie. And that'll be like one
I
of
don't
the best.
sound like that at all.
I like movies. Doy,
Shut
doy,
up.
doy. And
You be quiet over there, fuckface.
and then you get this remarkable set piece that completely thematically complements the characters and the conversations that they've been having. And that's how we construct like a great world. It's very like, you know, diegetic like that. But the fact that like in all of those instances of high pressure work, whether it's as concentrated as a pitch or just going into a film together, just knowing that we've got each other's backs.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, I don't know if it's made a big difference to how your way of working, but like it's such a just massively depressurizes my own personal headspace, just having a partner in all of that, like knowing that I have someone who's going to be watching my back and calling me out and being honest with me. Like I don't know how you could do it all on your own.
Oh,
Right.
Oh, I'm gonna cry now.
You're like,
please
none
do.
of that.
That
I don't
makes for the
agree.
best
I
tape.
preferred it before you came into my
John
life.
Lynch cries.
stuck here now.
Yeah, hard
The
disagree.
next clipped from the crypt.
I look, one of the things that I've always wanted is a partner, like not just creatively, you know, if the two were not the same person, then, you know, that would have been okay. But I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I have my true creative partner and the love of my life all in one package. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, but even still, like a lot, like I was just listening to an interview with Ryan Johnson and his producer Ram, I think it is. Cue the Ryan Johnson image.
You said Ryan Johnson. We personally know it, Ryan Johnson, so that's why I give him a look. It's
Oh.
like the Ryan Johnson.
That Ryan Johnson.
The only.
But you know, he
That's
and his
Hollywood for
producer,
you.
he and his producer have been working together forever. And even like from the beginning, I've always wanted to have a producing partner or a writing partner or anybody else, because it like
Holds you to
filmmaking-
account.
Yes, filmmaking can be such an insular, isolating experience.
And it's so hard sometimes to maintain perspective on anything that you do and remind yourself like whether or not it's still good or why you're writing this. Like I always hand off a script to you to read for the first time. Joe's always the first person to read anything I've written. And by the time I hand it off to him, I'm like, this sucks. And I'm
Yeah.
so scared.
And I'm sitting there
Too
going like,
zoomed
you're a
in.
fucking moron.
Like when we went on our fart walk the other night.
telling you, fart walks are going to be a big thing now. We've given it a name.
They're really healthy. They're meant to go for fart walks after you eat.
You have to release.
It's the
Yes.
postprandial, like
You
you
just
getting
sit there and
things
you
flowing in
giggle
the right way.
over your fucking farts the whole time. It's
Yeah,
great.
it's good. Otherwise, you just sit in your own stewing in
I'm
your own
sorry.
juices.
Women don't
your own
fart.
ass juices.
Women don't
Yeah.
fart. They whisper glitter out of their butts, you know?
Sprinkle.
Yes.
Yes, it's just a lovely sprinkle of gas.
That smells like
gas
shit.
glitter.
I think the moment that
smell
we
like
really,
shit?
the moment we really knew when we were
My-
in love was when our farts synced up.
Oh yeah,
And they
that
smelled
was
the same.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And we were
my
like,
ass smells.
wait,
In the immortal words of oh gosh, what's this? Now I'm gonna be torn apart by the metal community. The lead singer. Your ass smells like a rose. Dun, dun, dun,
oh,
dun,
you mean
dun, dun.
Wayne Static?
Yes, in the immortal words of Rain Static, our asses started to smell like a rose together.
That's when you know. That's when you
Right.
know it's a true.
Or at least that you're eating a lot
symbiosis.
of the same food.
That's true too. But then why? Yeah, but our dogs. No, he didn't. His farts didn't really smell the same.
We've all just got the same microbiome.
Maybe.
Anyway,
Microbiomes.
how
I
we
love it.
got onto this topic.
Fart walks.
Fart
Yeah.
walk. Oh, when we were on a fart walk the other night, and you were like, "I finished placenta," which is the name of the working title. And he
Actually,
just,
I believe it was.
yeah.
I finished the script.
It was a wet one.
Yeah. Ooh. Let's check to see if someone's behind us. Usually, the someone
Always.
is. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
And there's been a few times where it's like, I'm so sorry.
I once walked out and thought I was alone and just burped really loudly and then turned around and just saw a guy go, "All right." And I was
Nice.
like, "Nice."
Good
I
out.
was like, "Oh God."
Fantastic out.
But you gave like just because at the time I was like writing a different script and I was like, oh, I can't process your like response to my previous script at the moment. Like, what if it's bad? And Joe just gave me like a smile. And it was like so nice. Like it was just like relief of just like, oh, I didn't
I didn't want to suck her off
waste
immediately.
2 months of
you
my
know?
life. Why not?
Yeah, but I needed, just needed to like work around the tip
Some
a little
foreplay. Well, wait, but foreplay is, well, I guess depending on how you talk to.
work around the labia
Yeah.
a little bit. You know?
Anyway.
Pantomime.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good, good finger.
Double vagina
Play.
action.
Yes. Because that's how I like it.
I
I
lo-
like the mutants that are just they have one on each thigh and just like blah, 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 blah. We've
revealing
devolved
too
into
much about
madness.
me.
Yes. Well, you guys are absolutely perfect for each other, personality wise, and you could see it come to fruition.
So that's
in
where we
something
ended on, huh? Double vaginas.
Well, I'm just trying to think. I mean, I'm like, you guys.
Have we covered all of
You
your
end on a
questions
high.
written on fucking Scribble Scrabble?
I think so. I don't know.
All right.
I go based off feeling, and I feel like
I feel bad because enough of the comment people are like, we wanted to hear about them talking about fucking movies, not like the art of screenwriting. But
no, fuck that and fuck those people. We
No,
are
we
here
love
to
you.
Feel it out.
We love you. At a couple of old fashions podcast, like and subscribe.
Yeah, if you
Please.
want to hear us
I
talk
have-
about movies, we have a whole goddamn
that's true.
podcast where we do nothing but talk about movies. So this
Do you-
feels good. This feels like we actually chartered some new territory.
And it's free. It's not on Patreon.
yes, not on Patreon.
Not
you
yet.
do have to listen
Not
to
yet.
Yeah.
What does that
an
mean?
ad. Well, because we have ads now.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yes, but it does mean that, like, you know, if you
Yeah,
want
but we
an
make
ad-free
the ads.
version.
It's not like we put in like insert ad here.
yeah.
So
no,
you
it's
could get
sponsorship.
the unadded version on Patreon.
Yeah, so that's
what
why
you
we've
guys
been
are thinking.
thinking about it.
But I
Makes
like
sense.
our ads. We make really fun ads.
Joe, I work so hard to cut us down because, as you can tell, we're gluttons for our own words and
Just verbal diarrhea.
a lot of verbal diarrhea and the so much fluids. To quote Jean Genet, all those knockout body fluids. See, I brought it back to cultural
Thank you.
Boom.
sanctity, but the work I do to cut it down to like 50 to 55 minutes when I'm sometimes going off a raw file of 90 minutes plus.
Whoa.
And then Joe is like, will come in with our like Diabolic commercial, who's our sponsor, Diabolic DVD. If you like physical media, check out Diabolic DVD.
Wow.
I want
Holy shit.
5%.
Not
Got
yeah,
it.
exactly. Like not your
I'll
sponsor.
get you some DVDs. I'll give you a promo code.
Dude, I'll take free DVDs
I'll give you
all
I'll
day.
give you a promo
Oh,
code.
it's called DVD, but they have all you
Yeah.
know 4K,
4Ks,
UHD,
Blu-rays.
Have you ever?
Blu-rays,
I can't
all
believe
that
we're
shit.
turning this into. Where do you shop? And not to give like promos and stuff, but you have a lot of fucking physical media.
Amazon mostly.
Is it mostly
Yeah,
Amazon?
they've got the best deals.
But
But
do you like? What about those?
Not as good as if you shop at
DiabolicDVD.com. That's
Using the-
DIABOLIK.
using the sponsorship code ACOF 2012. I forget
no,
what it is.
plug
like
it,
that.
plug it, please.
No, they get enough from us. Well, actually, but send us some free
Anyway,
DVDs.
Joe will send me our like commercial that we've created together, and it's like 6 minutes long. I was like, you couldn't have cut it like a shorter version.
To be fair, it was 5.
It's not a
and
mid-roll.
it's not easy to cut your whatever comes out of your mouth. It's so eloquent and so poetic.
I
Not
did notice
every-
on your guys' last episode, the ad was like 4 minutes.
See, they're noticing, Joe.
Fuck.
Well, I noticed.
You're gonna
these
love this one
things.
because
I
it's
don't know
5.
Yeah.
Oh boy, yeah, we'll see. But look, I will say this: you've been such a huge help for us,
Oh, thank you so
In-
much.
in-
oh my gosh.
teaching us the way. I don't know half
You're
this
like,
YouTube
yeah.
shit.
No, we're like
I
literally.
thought YouTube
GarageBand.
was just where you watched Lazy Sunday over and over again, and that's like, no, there's a whole world out there. You know, I really appreciate it.
I mean, you guys are just too talented to, not have something out for the public. I remember, I think the first episode of your guys' show that I watched was on Patreon. I paid the
Yeah.
$4.99, I believe.
Thank you.
And I loved it. And I just remember thinking, why the fuck isn't this publicly available?
I think I think it was you
No,
who
we
texted
didn't
about it.
like the pay per view either. No one really understood
It was-
that.
even if
mechanic.
it was a monthly cost, I
Yeah.
feel like you guys need to have your stuff out in public. It's like going to school. You learn.
But I think, and we were talking about this before, like
We'll
there's
take you to school.
the
I was like,
Very
Sorry.
seductive.
I can't take her anywhere, or I can take her somewhere. Usually a dive bar
To
or
school.
a back alley. I think like in the last 5 years, YouTube has changed so much in terms of how people watch it. You know, like it's gone from laptops and mobile devices to you put it on your Apple TV and you can watch anything
Right.
on
Well,
your
that's why I
80-inch
love
screen. You know, so-
filmed podcasts, because what I hated about the shorts is that it's such like, rapid fire content. There's nothing of real substantial value to it.
Right.
But a podcast is long form. So you really,
Mm-hmm.
you get these kind of crazy conversations, and like Brand, you like didn't give us any kind of a brief. You didn't send any questions in advance. You were like, no, I really want that to be a part of this show with the off the cuff responses. So sorry if
better
that
or
was
for worse.
yeah, better
No,
or
no, it's
worse.
for better always.
But
Well, that's how you capture people's spirits.
Yeah.
Yeah, in
I'm
the
a
long
soul
form.
collector. I want to collect your
You're collecting
souls
our
and put it on
farts.
my shelf.
Oh, we sold ours a long time ago, but you're
Unsuitable
welcome to
flesh.
our hollow bodies.
yeah,
Yeah.
our hollow
We
fleshy
work in
cases.
Hollywood. That's all we
Yeah.
are now. Hollowed out flesh suits.
Sorry.
But you're welcome to them. So
Yeah. of
tomorrow
course.
night,
Anytime.
ass juices.
Tomorrow
Oh.
night, Ash
day.
Juice, we are going to fucking send it.
Cannot wait.
Yeah.
But what is the link? Is it just a couple of old fashions, or is it Akoff, Becca, and Joe?
It's Akoff, Becca, and Joe for Instagram. It's
Akoff Becca Joe.
Yes,
Becca Joe.
Akoff,
Yeah,
Becca
yeah.
Joe for Instagram. I should know this shit better.
I know.
at a couple of old fashions
You
podcasts.
should. I should have it written fucking down.
On YouTube, you can find us. We have we're well into season 2, and it's been going great. For all the shit that's going on right now, like it's still the thing that I look forward to the most when I wake up in the morning. You know, it's like whether it's watching the movies that we're gonna watch or shooting. You know, the shooting part is only stressful only because it's like we've had tech issues before, and as you know, that can really put a crimp in your day. You know, but it also makes you fucking paranoid for it to happen again,
Right.
Especially when other people are involved, and it's like, oh fuck, I just wasted this person's time, and this camera turned off, like which had just recently happened. It shit happens. But then when Becca sends me the project file and I get to relink that media, and I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
It's so much fun, you know? So it's not being done for monetary reasons. It's not being done for anything other than there's just like this. Sometimes there's nothing better than having a collective of people and you're just talking about things you love, and we love movies. And whenever we get to profess that, and if one person watches one of the movies that we talk about, then it's a fucking win.
Right.
You know, I recently someone reached out and said they watched one of the movies that we recommended last season, which was this movie called, and if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry. With Susan George. We're bringing it all back around again. Susan George, Peter Fonda, Vic Morrow. I'm not going to say anything more.
No, you have to go in totally blind for
Roddy
that experience.
McDowell.
It is an experience.
This movie will fucking rock you.
Yeah.
It is so fucking good. But somebody recently reached out and said, like, I never would have seen that movie until you guys mentioned it. And it's one of my favorite movies now.
It's like a quote from Roger Ebert that I kind of like took and made my own because I didn't think he wrote it quite well.
I rewrote Roger Ebert, writer of Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. Jesus.
But I end every one of our little like it's not what I say at the end, but it's like when I'm writing out the biography, like link in the bio or whatever it is, the copy for that every week. It's the greatest gift that a film lover can give another. It's the title of a film that they've yet to discover. And that's honestly, again, going back to the beginning. We see this is full circle. This is well written.
Tintorera. Who doesn't love a good thruple shark movie?
It's like it's so wonderful to just share if you love movies or stories and just, because everyone watches them in a different way. And some of the most fun parts about sharing movie titles with one another is like the conversations that you get to have after, like that moment in True Romance where they watch movies and then she's like, do you want to go get some pie and talk about the movies? And that's why it's such a film bro movie, because like every film bro's dick is like, oh, the dream girl. But that's genuinely
Alabama Whirly.
Yeah. But that's genuinely what like I love the most about like going out to watch movies with friends is then going out for like food or whatever and just talking about it.
Yeah.
And like that's what that love, that feeling of sharing, that community building of based off of that mutual love is part of what made Joe and I both pursue this career. We were both that weird kid in the fucking classroom, and we found like-minded weird kids from those classrooms and building families off of that, like connecting in the only way that we really know how, which is through movies, either the ones we make or the ones that we share. So that's pretty much our entire lives just built around that love, that community, that friendship. And I don't know any other way to do that.
Can we go get some pie now?
Yes, now we should get
we're
pie.
gonna miss Wizard of Oz again.
No,
no.
Definitely not.
So everybody at home, please subscribe to a couple of Old Fashions with Becca and Joe. You guys have been amazing guests. Probably
Thank
the
you for
easiest
having us.
podcast I've ever had in my life.
Oh, you say that to all the guests. Come on.
No, legitimately, I didn't have to say a fucking word throughout this one. That was amazing. I wish all guests were like you guys.
Shit.
That's a good thing. That's
We
not
just hogged the mic.
Yeah, the comments.
No,
the
no.
comments are just going to be fucking ripping us a new asshole.
No, it's going to be me. This guy didn't say shit.
No,
Fuck him.
No.
You
We
were
love you all.
providing the juice that were being ripped assholes open
Yes.
for. So
Well,
Fast juice.
let's high five it. This
Yes.
is my first high five ending ever.
That was terrible.
Rusty, come here. Give us all a high
Rusty,
five.
get in the camera.
Everyone's got to see you. High five, Rusty.
Yeah, Rusty.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, and then
From the show. Yes. Very nice.
That was a cameo appearance by the children that they have locked in their studio.
Oh
They-
yeah. Well, we
Movie
have to
Crypt.
get them young, indoctrinate the children.
Exactly.
Yeah, and fart on their faces.
Well, thank you guys for being here. I really
I don't know where that
appreciate
came
it.
from.
All right, ladies
From
and
your
gentlemen.
dark soul.
Peace from
Bye.
the crypt.